Right. Famulem, I bring warm greetings to una. We know say the number get for develop, but anyway, the show is live. And I bring warm greetings to una from the TNN TV media empire. Today, the 30th of July, 2022. It's 5 o'clock or 5:17 to be exact on my side, in London. And I'm happy to bring this very special program to una this afternoon. Let me say this, Fambulem. I mean, the discussion why they can hold today with a very special guest, well known all around the globe. It's one way probably not new, so we go take a different approach because this man only deal with these issues for many, many years, beyond 4, 5, 6 years. But of late, it's a little bit different because it's more focused on government and what in government they do. I know they say not be don't do this previously because they been hold previous governments into account. Today, we want to scrutinize with system of governance, especially in a parliamentary democracy, as we go see, the state of we parliamentary democracy and the state of we country, how we country they. Things the way they happen, what in parliament supposed for do, what in the people and their responsibilities are, with civic responsibilities, we self-working they do the talking them, and the people are working they listen to we. This man don't do an extraordinary job. And needless for me to go over and over the same thing because he is well known, like I say, from the very beginning. Again, once more, Famulem, we can look into with Parliament, many, many things that we can discuss. With Parliament, how then they perform, whether they're gullible, whether they're vulnerable, whether it's intentional, whether there is collusion, and you name it. All of that we will look into today. We also get for scrutinize with government and the interplay and interchange between the executive branch and specifically the parliament. But inside there, we go lump the judiciary as well. And two know say the three arms of government. Now, the main arms of government, they were supposed to carry on the state affairs in a legitimate and transparent manner. But all of this seems to be lacking. But these not only words, we go hear from we guest himself, who I will introduce shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, once more, this is the TNN Media Empire. My name is Prince Emil Kroma. Today is Saturday, the 30th of July. Stay tuned, and we'll help we for shape this all important. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I've been say, today a very important program. And Sierra Leone, somehow, we have to help for bring that change where we all they aspire for. If leadership not able to give that change, then we, the people themselves, we get for try hard and lump together, come together, for try for bring that change the way we want to see. And this is, we can really actualize them because we see that they happen this BNTM. Never in our history have we seen, such things the way they happen. Very exciting times in the country. For help we for understand and go to the bottom of all this, is with very special guest, who happens to be Mr. Chernoh Alpha Emba, the editor or one of the editors of the famous Africanist press. We don't they pull bulletin out of bulletin, articles after article, not to them fiasco article, and they talk about real articles where they point to a state and give it direction as to how we supposed for hold we leaders them accountable, since the people that we elect they're not able for hold them accountable. How we for go closer to we parliamentarians them and ask them the questions then we relevant, keep we eyes and ears open. Chernoh, it's been quite a while, my brother, and I'm very happy and pleased for have you once more on the TNN Media Empire platform. And I wonder whether you want to tell Fambule Adu, you're not a stranger, but maybe you get an opening part for them.
No, yeah, I just want to say yes, indeed. It's been almost over a year that I've been on this wonderful platform with you. And I think the last time it was on the discussion around the independence.
Yeah.
I think that was 2021, April, if I remember very well. So it's been a great time. I've also been following the wonderful conversations that you have been leading through this platform and all that. And always appreciate the fact that people are having conversations from different front. So I'm really happy for there again, and look forward to the conversation, and also forget the opportunity for reflect on some of the issues that we have covered, and recent developments in Sierra Leone as it relates to Parliament, as you say, and what are the next steps moving forward as we get almost, I think, a little less than a year now to the next general elections, which are very crucial elections in 2023.
Absolutely.
So thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be
Yeah,
here.
yeah. And we I'm actually very pleased for have you. I can say that for sure. And it's been a while, but despite all the struggles and the commitments and the obligations, they talk about academic studies, academic duties, family, and keeping the pressure on government back home. You do look quite well, and it's good to see you. Um, Chernoh, just for begin with, there is plenty of talk. Sometimes not only talk can derive the way how we want for go, but certainly we do listen to what in the public get for say, because we're part of the public, and we too they help for try for shape opinion, if you will like. You burst into the scene, and you captured minds and souls and hearts and homes,
Mhm.
hundreds of thousands, if not millions, because I believe say 8.5 million of us, depending whether the calculation correct, population wise, but millions of them people, and they listen to you, they listen to you, still they listen to you. But there are concerns or word out there in social media that your source of information is drying up. That is one. Uh, your source of information they cannot dry up because those riveting news them where you been a pool, those captivating news the way been a pool, according to some people. Yeah, because not everyone, not certainly me, it
Mhm.
not seem for be captivating anymore. In other words, people that be used to this corruption and physical corruption or money corruption, financial corruption, if you like, forgetting to know that there are variances in corruption. So I think but it's not for me to say anyway. But this is the word out there. I wonder whether you were able to address this. I'm not saying a small talk, but sometimes it's small talk. It can finally you deal with them once and for all, and then we can lay them aside and get to real talk.
Yeah, we work hasn't changed, and the pattern of our operation has not changed. The commitment and the exclusivity of the kind of investigative journalism that we have introduced, not just in Sierra Leone, but in the African continent, is unique. Um, for people who are familiar with investigative journalism work, you get for people spend, for example, what we know in traditional investigation, they spend investigations run for like a year, two, or even more. People investigate stories for a longer period, and then you get this one break um, where you expose, like in the case of the Panama Papers, if you like, or the Pandora Papers, or similar kinds of investigation, you get this outburst of explosion, boom, in once, and it rivets all over the place. It goes like the outburst of flood, when flood waters just break through a house, and then you go. Then after that, now after the flood, it goes away. So people just remember the damage that the flood or the mudslide or whatever create, because it's a permanent thing. So that has been perhaps the kind of journalism, investigative journalism, that we know of, where a group of people or a particular investigative journalist spend time on a particular story and then get an exclusive report out, and that report informs. The thing about you make the news, you produce the news that becomes news for other news outlets, and they report it. You're there at the center for a few time, and then it goes away. Then you spend other time for work. But that has not been the kind of journalism that the Africanist press has introduced in the Sierra Leonean context. Because what we did was, or what we are still doing, is an ongoing series that we have produced systematically, going at least more than 2 years now, examining the bio administration. Not forget, say, we first publication start on the 1st of March 2020. And we don't show department after department, exclusive financial details of not just the story of corruption, but also illustrating in visual term the story. So the response of the government and the union supporters has been that they were hoping the thing not go last long. It will just be one thing, boom, then after that it goes away. But the Africanist press work on Sierra Leone and the BO administration, the BO regime, has remained a perennial feature, a permanent feature of daily life and daily activity in Sierra Leone. Almost everything that the government has done in the last 2 to run into 3 years now, since we commenced our publication, has been dictated or influenced in a large part by the work that we continue to do. So we not run out of information, and we'll never run out of information. I have said repeatedly that what we have produced so far is still under 25% of the evidence of the loot of the National Treasury of Sierra Leone, and we don't highlight that. But like you say, corruption get typologies. There are types of corruption, and there is what we call financial corruption, which is the financial details, the loot of the treasury, money, and ongoing transactions that happen involving the banks and all of that. But there's another aspect of corruption also, which is the twin, if you like, the other leg of the corruption, especially when they deal with rogue states and rogue regimes and rogue politicians, which is a political manifestation of that corrupt society. When politicians make it part of the modus operandi of the state, or the method of running the state as an instrument to loot public wealth, the next thing they think about is how to stay in office, how to protect that stolen wealth. And then the question of the financial loot of the resources will then be supported, will then be followed by how do you make sure that you do not leave office, because especially when corruption is at the highest level, where is at the level of the presidency, at the highest level of the political establishment. In the case of the Africanist press, we not only show corruption at the lower levels of the administration, but we start right at the top, the president, family members of the president, key officials in the administration who the president cannot do anything about, cannot even pretend of acting, because he's the culprit. And we not only accuse the president, we also show unprecedented detail of how government steals money, the mechanisms through which money is being looted, not just the loot, but how it's been looted and constantly being looted. And now that don't become an ingrained idea and understanding sufficiently in the body politics of Sierra Leone, and it don't sweep through the ordinary mass of Sierra Leoneans. People have been singing songs now. Even when the president travel, you see people take the calculators on their own based off the information provided by the Africanist press, and it will suggest how much we have lost, even when they don't have the evidence. So that is the extent of the influence. So now we look at that one. How do we hold these leaders accountable? It's not just about showing the public what they've stolen, but it has to move further. There are institutions in a country that should basically serve as transparency checks. And these institutions range from the parliament, which has oversight responsibility in terms of making sure that the loot of the treasury is stopped. And you get parliamentary committees on accountability and transparency and all of that, because in the final analysis, the executive branch of government not get the right or the authority for use public funds without authorization from parliament. But so what you will expect is that parliament or parliamentarians or the committees in parliament who are responsible for this oversight for step in and decide for prevent this ongoing loot that is being reported, or investigated at least, and try to see how they can close this massive theft of the public wealth. And not only that, there are also other transparencies like the audit service that's their responsibility for check government financial transactions and provide to the public the audited accounts of the entire government, or a sampling of government financial operation, for people and see whether the finances of the country is healthy or unhealthy. And we know what happened to the audit service. Apart from that, there is also the Accountant General's Department, which is responsible for authorizing the issuance of government checks, the disbursements, and all of that. So you will expect all of these internal structures of the administration if they are unaware of the work of journalists or the fourth estate in highlighting the infractions in the administration of the state, should step in and try to correct it. So, but we never see that in a salon. So the question then for the investigative journalists, or in the case of the Africanist press, is what has to be done to also not just report this crime that is happening, financial crime that is happening, but also what has prevented the institutions, the internal control mechanisms from functioning in terms of stopping them. Because as I tell you now, like for example, Madabio has gone to England now. This week alone, as I'm looking, between June 15 to the 28th of August, 28th of July, you see that almost like a month or a month, 2 weeks. I will tell you, say, I will read even letters and if you allow me in the process, we'll get this discussion for show you how over 10 billion, I would say almost 15 billion euros has been taken out of the banks when he went to the AU summit to Switzerland and also to even England, including nearly £100,000 that was wired to England on the 27th of July,
Wow.
like 2 days ago, to the embassy, to the Sierra Leone High Commission account and the Barclays Bank account of the Sierra Leone Embassy in the UK.
Wow.
Just to allow the embassy to take care of the president, and he's on a family vacation. So this is not like saying it. We have these details, but the question for we is not just about showing people the amount. It's an ongoing operation of the state. There are many other avenues through which the finances of Sierra Leone are being shipped out of the country through commercial banks, through the central bank, through clearing houses, through travel, and all of this. So we have to take it further than that in terms of also interrogating why has the transparency, internal transparency control system been unable to, from the anti-corruption commission to the parliament to the audit service to the accountant general's department, all of these institutions wait for make sure say the executive branch of government, at least their financial control mechanisms for stop some of these loot, state organized loot of the treasury for them happen. But why not happen? It takes us to a question of state capture. Why have the institutions of the state been disabled from functioning, carrying out their stated mandate in the constitution? So this is why now we are focusing on parliament. So that takes us from financial corruption to another type of corruption that we call political corruption. The two, when combined, falls under the definition of grand corruption at the highest level of the state. So if you notice a change in we approach to reporting, is because we have also graduated the style of reporting from financial corruption to the superstructure of the state, which is at the level of the political establishment, where we have to show the collaboration of other sectors of the society, especially the political class, in terms of this organized loot of the resources. So we're dealing with political corruption at this level, and this operation will start beginning in April, because we notice by April the political class as a combined across all parties decide for come together again for launch both direct and indirect effort for silence the Africanist press as we move to the elections. And they did this by multiple ways. They formed alliances across political parties in parliament and outside of parliament. They organized their own distraction campaigns. They spoke to their members to discourage the dissemination of the Africanist press. They went as far as deploying institutions of the state for attack and threatening me, for example. I received countless numbers of death threats. There is no organization in Sierra Leone or no individual in Sierra Leone who has even written a statement in my defense. The defense for and protection for my life and speaking out against the threats that I'm facing as a consequence of exposing the political establishment across parties in Sierra Leone has come from international organizations. Of course, you must be aware that by the end of May, this Committee to Protect Journalists in New York has to issue a statement calling on the government of Sierra Leone to stop their ongoing harassment of the Africanist press. I think 2 weeks ago, there was also a statement from the Civil Forum for Asset Recovery, which is an umbrella organization of transparency, civil society organization that are campaigning for the return of stolen wealth. This is an organization where they fight in Europe. In fact, they help the Nigerian government for locate Abacha's stolen wealth and other, Husni Mubarak and other. I am part of that organization, having participated in some of their training programs. So they were even forced 2 weeks ago to issue a statement in defense of the risk that I have faced. So why I say this? If we work not change, we not reduce. In fact, we don't receive. We have become much more intense in our operation than before, because now you find out, say, the attacks against the Africanist press are not just coming from the SLPP, the party in power. It's coming from even opposition members of parliament, their supporters, their surrogates. So we have been constantly faced with the real monsters of the politics of Sierra Leone. They are located in the APC across parties. You see the attack where they come now. People making videos, calling me all kinds of names, sending me text messages, writing text messages, sending death threats, making me phone calls, trying to make my life miserable. So,
Okay.
but basically, but basically, so if you say, and these are the same people the way they try for talk say we work with a source of information don't reduce, but no, if we assess the impact of the Africanist press, we have succeeded not just to expose the government of Sierra Leone, but we don't make sure, say, the international community, the global community of nations who are concerned about democratization, of transparency and accountability, they have been brought into the equation, where some of these institutions had to issue statements in defense of a style of journalism that is unprecedented, not just in Sierra Leone, but in many parts of the African continent, where you have a real-time reporting of government financial operation and looting of national treasury as it is unfolding in real time. It has never happened before. And I am humbled by the fact that I am able, together with my colleagues, to be able to do this. It is a dream that I had longed for. I have studied under people, mentors who had prepared me for this kind of work for years. I had looked forward to this kind of opportunity. I have at least 20 years I have put into journalism work in Sierra Leone and other places. But I will tell you, at this period, I'm satisfied with the kind of work that I'm able to do. And especially so I'm doing it for a country I call mine.
Yeah.
So I am, regardless of the risk involved and the traumatizing experiences that comes with it, the stress and the pain and
Okay.
what's it called, the
Well,
barrage of attacks. I am satisfied with myself as an individual Sierra Leonean to be able to serve as the edge of the sword, to be at the edge of the sword in a campaign for transparency, accountability, and democratization. I am completely satisfied. I regardless of everything, when I look at that, I am pleased, and I'm pleased with what we've been able to do. We've been able to not just inform the people, but take them along in a journey to demand accountability from leaders, which is what you see in this recent experience with Parliament. So I want to assure the people and say the Africanist press not exhaustive. We never run out of information. The
yeah.
politicians know that, and they've been fighting very hard to silence us. Every campaign, they don't spend the amount of money they don't spend for get rid of our presence. If they build hospital, it will have built more than 5 hospitals, standard hospitals right now. That Putin has spent more from April to now in bribing bloggers, in bribing journalists, in bribing politicians, everything, including 2.8 billion that they gave to NEC on the 20th of June to give to the Electoral Commission on the 20th of June when the pre-legislative discussion on the recent public elections bill happened. These are not allegations.
So we go come
So,
to all of that because I
so, I-
think
so,
say
yeah,
yeah, you be still one add on.
no, I just want to add, say,
Yeah.
our work is precise based on what we look in front of us. The
Yeah.
politicians want us to be turning out numbers while they are trying to steal the election. There's a direct relationship between the theft of public money and the theft of elections. Right now, our effort is to stop the plan of the regime and its allies to steal the elections the same way they loot in the treasury.
So now
That is
that's
that
exactly
is
I
what
want
we
go.
fight.
That is exactly I want go to now, Chernoh. And many thanks for that lengthy, laborious explanation just for set the record straight. And for those who thought otherwise, I think the man don't clarify am up to now that it talk, it revealed to be fresh news. So if it be one for pull down in terms of the numbers and figures who don't use for SIP and black and white, like £100,000 wired to the UK embassy here in the Sierra Leone High Commission in the UK to take care of the president and his family because he day on vacation. Then of course you will have seen it in black and white paper.
No,
There are
for
over
the
50
reader, make
billion.
a make a read the letter. So for just make people
Yeah,
then see.
of course, we want all clarity today, so people will know that you even in possession of the
Yeah.
letter. Please go
So
ahead.
so, so make a reader. This was
Yes, please.
this was from the Accountant General's department. written on the 27th of July, 2022. You don't understand. The reference of the letter is AGDYBBOSL, which is Bank of Sierra Leone, 27607. Dear sir, payment in respect of the presidential working visit to London, United Kingdom, from the 28th July to the 15th of August 2022. We write on the instruction of the Financial Secretary to authorize the Bank of Sierra Leone to transfer the sum of £94,050 from the other charges account number 011001279 to the undermentioned account stated below. There you get it. Say the Sierra Leone High Commission is the payee. Payment, the details: payment for the presidential visit to London, United Kingdom, from the 28th July to 15th of August, £94,050 sterling. And this was paid to the Sierra Leone High Commission, London Bank, Barclays Bank account number 733-28147. And the sort code is 201688. You get the SWIFT transfer details here. This payment is in respect of the presidential visit of His Excellency the President and entourage to London, United Kingdom, from the 28th July to 15th August 2022. We are constrained, imagine, we are constrained to use this method of payment only because of the extreme urgency of the transaction. Please send us your advice confirming that these payments have been effected. And this is signed by the Accountant General, Richard S. Williams, and countersigned by his Deputy Accountant General, Lawrence S. Cooker. Why I read this letter, and I will tell you, say, now they are not, because of the exposure they exposed them, they are not even using the traditional form of bank. They don't develop a clandestine method. And this money that I just read about, the money wired to the High Commission in London for making them take care of the president with the card, this not include what the president and his wife has taken out of the local and overseas travel account.
Goodness.
And this is just on the 28th of July. And remember, saying at that 28th, the president left in England, and right now on vacation. You know, say every July, August,
yes,
they go vacation every year. So,
yes,
and this is also not in addition to in June, while in the gather drama, police drama, that one they say they don't arrest anyone.
Distraction.
Let me read another letter again.
Please
but
do.
Anyway, why I do this, that for make people that know, say it's not a question of lack of information.
The point is, Chernoh, you could have published these letters which for the amount to the same thing.
But there are more important things what I want to focus on now, which is
I can see
the fact that the marriage between the parliament, the parliamentarians who you think are opposition, who have now willingly are collaborating with the state for rescue Madabio from being defeated, because he needs to remain in office to be able to protect himself from being held accountable for the ongoing loot of the public treasury, which the parliament should have ordered an investigation, and they've refused to do that. It's a collaboration.
So let me talk about this parliament, or you want to read that letter there first? Because I
can go to that again. Hold on.
Go to I want everybody when they listen today or wait for listening subsequently. And
the point is, we are not here to prove to people that we have evidence or not. And the politicians, they've been wishing for that. They've been wishing for a long time now.
We appreciate you they pull all of these things them now. I appreciate that because this is what we've come to used to, and I'm a huge fan of yours. I don't hide it. And I get in conversation there with people. We argue a lot and what have you. I see exactly where you are going. But then there's this counter argument about, no, the source don't dry up. But here you are revealing.
They don't accuse Lara Tilopia, say, Nana with source. So then,
yes, all kinds.
Here is what I'm reading again.
1 year ago, Lara don't go, but here you are still
from the same Accountant General's department. This letter is written on the 15th of June 2022. And I will read the reference number for this one. It's AGD RSW Bank of Sierra Leone BOSL 22599, written to the governor. And it says, there's a payment to replenish the floating allocation for local and overseas travel account for His Excellency the President. We write on the instruction of the Financial Secretary to authorize the Bank of Sierra Leone to transfer the sum of 10 billion leones from the other charges account number 011001279 to the undermentioned account as stated below. So basically, these were paid in 4 different, ordered by the Secretary to the President. paid in 4 different forms of payment, 2.5 billion in total, 10 billion, and paid to the local overseas bank account, which is bank account number 01120073002. Then still, this payment is in respect of the replenishment of the floating allocation for local and overseas travel for His Excellency the President. We are constrained to use this method of payment only because of the extreme urgency of the transaction. Please send us your advice. So you see that the same thing. So now and this one is written by the same Accountant General, Richard S. Williams, countersigned by his deputy, Lawrence S. Coker, and copied to the Minister of Finance, copied to the two deputy ministers of Finance, 1 and 2, the Financial Secretary, the Secretary to the President, Office of the President, and the Director of Budget. And this, like I said, is 15 June. And remember, 15 June, at the time when they talk about that police tolo, say police, while they get the people ever talk about police, police don't arrest
LEJ and this and
they
that
don't
for
take
distract
it.
the masses
They take this,
from the
and
real thing where they happen.
they been go the AU summit, the Waka, they go Geneva, and 5 days after this, where you don't take this money, nine can go the bill in the Parliament on the 20th of June. That is when the public elections bill was started in Parliament. But let me read another one again.
Please do. We get all the time for this today. Trust me.
No, it calls for patience. The line of work that we do, it requires patience. Then call it patience. Patience is a virtue. That's the
It's
thing.
a good virtue.
Yeah, it's a good virtue. Okay, this one is very interesting. This one is on the 20th of June, and from the same Accountant General's Office with reference number AGDRSWBOSL, which is the Bank of Sierra Leone 22515. Why are they read that? Because they know say yes. Those who are writing these letters know exactly. So, and this is also written for the attention of the Director of Banking, and it says, "Dear Governor, payment to the National Electoral Commission for Quarter 2, 2022. We write on the approval of the Honorable Minister of Finance and hereby authorize the Bank of Sierra Leone to pay the sum of 2.8 billion from the election basket account number 0112009564 held at the Bank of Sierra Leone to meet payment as stated below. 1. The National Electoral Commission. Details of the payment is payment to the National Electoral Commission in respect of administrative, recurrent, and program cost allocation for Quarter 2, 2022, 2.8 billion. And the account number is here also paid. They get the transfer code. But basically, this payment is in respect of administrative, recurrent, and program cost allowance to the electoral. We are constrained to use this method of payment because of the urgency of the transaction. And this now, the 20th of June. Now they say they don't pay to electoral commission the second payment, but this is basically this money was given from the Bank of Sierra Leone the very day where the electoral commission can go the bill in the Parliament, pre-legislative thing, and you have to look at the bank statement of the electoral commission. You will see all this money don't come out. It don't come out of the account. Where the electoral commission spending? The Parliament na Kerangu, na Matthew Newman and Gia, na the parliamentary and the negotiable. So the fact of the matter is that we have a country that we still have to protect. We have the image of the country that we still have to protect. But at the same time, we want things to run smoothly. Are you did it?
Yeah, there with you. Carry on.
Yes. So sometimes, it's not the absence of information.
Yeah.
It's basically it's not just the fact that we want to write bad about our country. We just want things to go right. We want things to work well for the interest of more than 8 million Sierra Leoneans. The people who are doing this, they are not up to 1 million people. Very handful politicians who have been trusted with the destiny of a country. They think it's their birthright to sink the country and its future. Then for their own selfish interest, they do not care to plunge the entire country into crisis and suffering and prolong the suffering of ordinary Sierra Leoneans. So, at my own vantage point, what I see sometimes, I told one or two of the MPs when they cost me the other time, a couple of weeks ago when we started discussion on public elections bill, I told him that I'm trained as part of my work to be patient, with some of the information that I have, because some of it, if I publish, there will be crisis. To be honest with you, there will be crisis.
Mhm.
Some of them, their supporters will even lynch them on the road. That is what we want. No, no, not true. I tell you so. I say this. I mean it exactly. It's not just a careless statement. I'm saying a precise statement which they know is fact. And this is why they've been spending money. They've been doing everything that they can to
To
silence me.
silence you.
If they get opportunity, therefore they will have killed me by now, because they know there is no single detail that I have produced, including one simple zero that is incorrect. What I have done is to make sure that I do not publish something that will annoy and raise the anger of the people of Sierra Leone to the extent that they will begin to lynch their own political leaders. And some of them deserve it anyway, because
Yeah.
you cannot really look at the hospitals in Sierra Leone. Look at now, professors, academics at the university they're not receiving July pay, and you have a president who is wiring money out of the country as if it's no. These are the serious issues.
Yeah,
And
this.
then you will animate a whole country to talk about other meaningless things deliberately. The political class does that, and you have a
Okay.
parliament and
Okay,
constitution
Chernoh.
cannot do. So
Thank
I have
you.
I have to go through these samples, not because I want to prove a point, but just to tell the people of Sierra Leone, if I do not publish something, it's because I am sorry for the country now at this point.
I
I
think say
want
everybody
people,
will listen to you at this point. We don't agree,
you
and
understand.
if you don't
So
understand, that means you need your head to be examined. To be honest, because if you've been in doubt about letters, I mean documents, incontrovertible evidence of waiting that happened, you've just given us the latest, and I sure say you get more. And I remember when I talked to you a few years back, you actually tell me say that the amount of material where you get, it will take you way beyond elections, and you've kept true to that promise. You know, you're just months away, but people and they try to deny that and say, well, you've gone dry. No, you haven't, and you don't make it clear. It's a strategy. You don't move away from financial corruption into election corruption, and this is where we are. And some time ago, not too long ago, you make the number of the, and they talk about the contact of the Speaker of Parliament very public. And I wonder why you do that. Was it as a, what, were you in a state of desperation, or what was the strategy? What did they behind this?
no, the role of the press is the press. You get three branches of government written out in the Constitution. Basically, the legislative arm of government, the judiciary, these are we know, and the other fourth, they say fourth unpronounced arm of the government, the fourth estate, the press. The press is not supposedly part of the state, but it is also written in the Constitution as part of its civic responsibility. It should just include to inform and educate, to inform people and entertain. In some cases, play music and make cartoons and stuff like that, and ridicule society, satire and all of that. But also the responsibility of journalists and journalism is to educate the society, and that includes civic education and civic responsibility. So basically, the press get an advocacy role that is placed. The press is part of civil society, and part of the responsibility of civil society is not just to provide information or disseminate information, but also for help hold leaders accountable. So the thing that we did with if calling on the people for ask questions to them parliamentary leaders is an education by itself. It's a process of drawing the people face to face with their elected representatives, so they know that power is actually located in the hands of the people. It's not the elected representatives who are rented, on a rent, like rent. They are rented power. They're given power for a temporal time to carry on. So we were basically serving as a bridge to show the people where power lies, and the sovereignty belongs to the people, and people then get the responsibility for demand, make genuine and peaceful and polite demands to their leaders, ask them, this is what we want. This is how, because for many years now in Sierra Leone, let's say 60 years of so-called independence, what we've had is parliamentarians and politicians telling the people what is good for the people and how they are representing the people. The population has never taken upon themselves the right and the responsibility for tell elected leaders that this is how we want you to represent us. So quality representation and genuine representation starts with people demanding the kind of representation and the kind of representative conduct or kind of conduct that their representative should exhibit in the houses of representation, including parliament or in the cabinet or in the judiciary. So that is the rule now education. So it's not a desperation. It is a genuine democratic effort. In this case, we were trying to foil a parliamentary coup against the constitution. The parliamentarians, the parliament, in association with the executive branch of government and with the silence of the judiciary, we are committing treason. We are organizing a parliamentary coup against democracy in Sierra Leone, against the constitutional democracy of the country. And as journalists, when we learn about it, it's our responsibility to not just inform the people, but also educate them about what actions they need, what civil actions they need to take to prevent that coup from happening. Because if it happens, it plunges the country into crisis. So our role was both informative and educative in this instance. We were carrying out the stated mission of the press, as it were, both in colonial times and in the present. This is the traditional role of the media. The media is a component of civil society. Part of its responsibility is to uphold civil order and peace. And the way we do that is by informing and educating the population around what has to be done to make societies better, make societies much more greater, to enhance democratization and good governance. And this is so sharing the phone numbers of the Speaker of Parliament and other leaders of Parliament and members of Parliament and calling on them to make demands around what is good for the country yielded its desired result without crisis, without conflict. Now imagine if we had not done this and these parliamentarians decide for smuggle this legislation into law. And now by September, a month from now or a few weeks from now, people turn up for register and they find out they cannot register. What are you going to see? Now war, fight. People will be fighting electoral commissioners, police will come in, people will be arrested, people will be wounded, properties will be destroyed. So then the journalists now will sit by and begin to talk about conflict. You hear BBC will talk about it. 10 people have been killed through police violence because they try to register. That's when we begin to talk about the problem. My own kind of journalism is not to report about conflict, but to prevent also conflict from happening. And this is what I myself and my team decided to do with the help of other actors, social media activists and commentators who decided to provide us with the needed platform and collaborate with us to make sure we communicate directly to the ordinary population. And this also now a lesson to politicians that the power they think they have, they don't have it. The people have power. When for the first time when people then take action, direct action. You see, Abbas Bundu came to the House of Parliament. I was just drawn before I come to this show, speaking. I was just drawn to the attention that, hey, what you see there is basically the power of the people. When people directly make demands on Abbas Bundu, then direct phone calls. When he came to Parliament, he was crying. Hey, they gave me pain. Yeah, they caused me
Yeah,
pain.
you know, you don't take that kindly, you know, which
All
you
the
do
he was
to
crying in
mention, you
Parliament.
know, no
The
name.
Parliament was in tears coming to Parliament because, according to him, for the first time in the history of the country, this is an old man who has been in Parliament and done the politics of the region for all kinds of crises in Salone.
Time immemorial.
Involved. But this is the first time he's confronted with people's voices.
Yeah.
When he went to Parliament, he could not even appreciate the significance of representative democracy and participatory democracy in a civil form. What was he saying? He said we did reckless journalism. And
Yeah.
the other deputy speaker of parliament called me garbage because they're not used to the exchange.
Chernoh, let me read this quote to you quickly, and this is your quote. Whether it gets something for do with this part, because this was part of the line of questioning, and it seemed like now you they deal with, but I just need confirmation. So we have shown that our active vigilance and collective resilience as citizens will force politicians to do what we want them to do. It is the start of our determination to ensure free and fair elections in 2023. We must complete this process together. Is
Of
this
course.
what this is the process ongoing?
Yeah. It's supposed to, because we don't find out, say, if people are not take their destiny into their own hands and allow the politicians to decide for them, these politicians will lead them to hell. They will lead them to crisis. If we may allow the MPs there for things, say, now you hear them bragging about they do well. But if people then allow and sit back and not take action, we have a situation, we will not be just talking about the loot of trade, we will have no country. Because what Madabio and the parliament and these politicians are trying to do is to destroy the country. They don't care. They don't care about the lives of ordinary people. They don't care about the suffering, as long as they are well-to-do and their families. You look, right now we have crisis in the country. There are doctors demanding pay, salaries. Lecturers, university teachers do not have salaries. They have not been paid. You have a president looting money and going on a vacation in England. Yeah? The money where they don't transfer, so why can't you use that to pay teachers and lecturers or doctors? So if this situation continues another 5 years, are you going to have what you call Sierra Leone? No, you have that crisis. So now this, we say people and therefore stand up and take upon their stated rights within the constitution, that's within the constitutional order of the society, for demand, say they want things to be done. And if you then do that, we see Parliament had no choice. We brought the Parliament and the parliamentarians right in front of the market square. Say, yeah, when I want to sell, they can sell, but we see. So then go about 6 weeks, then they debate. In the process, they bring other law and lie discussion, and they count one small law and talk, say, then people forget. Finally, what did they do? They decided to remove all of the bad things they've hidden in the constitution, in this law. Now, if you look the law where they don't pass, the content of the current legislation and the 2012 Act is the same. So they have to be, in future, all of them, all these members of parliament, the Attorney General and Electoral Commission, they have to be held responsible and brought on trial for trying to organize a coup, wasting public money, meaninglessly, for holding a conversation that was geared towards nothing but overthrowing the constitutional order, constitutional democracy of Sierra Leone. That is a fact.
Yeah.
And people are beginning to wake up to this. People they see discussion and say, this is a distraction. So our work is really yielding its result. People are responding to that, which is very, very beautiful. We should not underestimate that particular. So that is the march. That is the march to democracy that we're talking about, and we are very thrilled and appreciative. So I want to use this opportunity for thank the people of Sierra Leone for taking up the courage and the time. People of Sierra Leone, both within the country and outside of the country, who responded to our call for direct action, making demands to their parliamentarians. You deserve the praise. This is your victory. This is the beginning of people realizing the power that is within them. That when government officials, they behave the way that they behave, recklessly, and they talk down on people, now because people allow them to do that. It is time we stop these things. And with the promise of new technology and open societies and social media, we can make this happen. We have started to show how it can be done. And we will take these kind of examples and develop more advanced examples in trying to hold leaders accountable.
Yeah. Many thanks for that, Chernoh. This is quite interesting. And Fambulen, just a quick reminder, we are hosting one of the editors of the Africanist Press, the most famous name now we community, now we country, and this is none other but Chernoh Alpha Emba. We don't make boku clarification today. And honestly, I don't think clarifications can be made beyond this point. And when they talk about issues relating to a country, few months from election time, how people are being empowered, because information, as we say on this platform, is power. And information where the Africanist Press and we all don't they provide to our people and don't sort of they empower with people for know the kind of choices them way then they make. Chernoh, it's a mixture of everything that we talk about. So this might not be your cup of tea, but since it is parliament related and therefore nationally related, I would like to let you up more on this. Because it seems like there's some confusion and misconception about what exactly they go on in parliament and within the major opposition party, and they talk about the All People's Congress. You get a 21-man committee where where the court be order, where the court basically not inform that 21-man committee day. So what we see lately is the 21-man committee, then they at each other's neck. And this is quite bizarre. Because a court na in construct una, na in give una a mandate una for go work with, but yet people and they at each other's neck. What exactly they go on? Because man we understand all anything there, both on the outside and the inside. And I mean within the party structure and within the wells of parliament, because it seemed like it get effects there as well.
Yeah, I think it's in a very important thing that the people of Sierra Leone, both members, supporters of the APC, and non-supporters and non-members of the APC need to pay attention to. Why? Before we can, why it's important for we as citizens of Sierra Leone for look into the internal dynamics of political parties and the conflicts that are happening there. Now, the fact that what we look at when we look at political parties, we are looking at individuals who, in the nearest future, are going to emerge as the national political leaders at the level of the state. A clear example was in 2012 when the SLPP flag bearer Julius Maada Bio, who is now the president of the country, contested the elections. The party constitution, the SLP party constitution at the time provided that if you contest an election, you lead the party to an election and you lose, you should vacate, you should leave. So what did Maada Bio do when he lost the elections of 2012? He decided in with his own group of people, they decide for hijack the party and introduce what they call Resolution 3. The Resolution 3 say he should continue to provide political leadership of the party because they had a petition against the elections in court until the conclusion of the election. So that created crisis. I remember at the time, there was a monologue program in which Alpha Timbo, who is now minister in the current government, I think Minister of Labor, complained against it. So you follow the crisis. So basically, they hijacked, they violated the party constitution and decided to impose themselves and remain. The crisis we follow is what resulted in the formation of the NGC. And then basically Maada Bio hijacked the party and remained as a perpetual flag bearer, and then eventually drove everybody out, then left out with the party. So he became they were hoping that he was not going to win in 2018. And by default, he ended up as being the president of the country. Basically, he is now the dictator and the thieving monster that we have to deal with as a common danger. How did that happen? It's because we did not pay attention to the internal dynamics, or we never took it seriously. We think it's an SLPP affair. You know, what happened in the SLPP was the incubation of the dictatorship that we are now dealing with at the national level. And it has become a dangerous situation that we have to deal with. So the similar kind of situation is what we see in the APC, which is why if we do not want a situation of a repeat or a more dangerous situation, more than what we have under Maada Bio, it's important for citizens, both members and supporters of the APC, for begin pay attention to this illegal 21-man committee, and how they came into being in the first place. Maybe we take this. It is so paradoxical or interesting in the fact that at the beginning of the Maada Bio regime 4 years ago, the government, the ruling SLPP, used the court and the police, first used the police for impose an illegal speaker on parliament, Abbas Bundu. You know the process. The APC complained about that. Then not only that, they used the courts to also remove 10 APC MPs and then replace those APC MPs through a court appointment without an election. The APC complained about the theft of parliamentary majority from the opposition, basically the destruction of the supremacy of parliament, the sanctity of parliament, and the supremacy of the legislative branch of parliament. So there and then separation of powers and what you call the rule of law was destroyed. The APC campaign and everybody say, yeah, this is a bad way of starting a democratic arrangement. But then the APC MPs who remained in parliament also were opposed to that decision of the court to remove their so-called comrades from parliament, and the appointment of other SLPP members to replace them in parliament became beneficiaries of the same court process. The same court will remove APC MPs, then can dismantle the standing executive of the APC, and then give the power to appoint the APC leadership in parliament, basically the APC parliamentary opposition leader in the parliament, Chernoh. was given the power by the court to appoint 12 members, including 8 from parliament, to populate what then became the illegal 21-man committee that is the result of a court appointment. These politicians there say their party is a victim of state capture because they don't use the court for take away parliamentary majority in their hand. Now, these same politicians then also accept, say the court get right for appoint them. They also accepted to be beneficiaries of the same state operation for dismantle the opposition and appoint caretaker executive that is made up of APC MPs. So when you look at the two, logically, what you see is the fact that these APC MPs and their leadership in parliament sold their 10 APC members in parliament to the SLPP in exchange so that they can also take their own party. That is the bargain. And now when you look at the court decision, go look at, I have posted this, I think, a couple of hours ago. Page 48 and page 49 of the ruling is explicit. It gave absolute majority to the APC MPs when the court rules say the APC leader supposedly now for appoint 12 of the members. So, and now if you talk about, this is what they're arguing about. They are saying two factions. You get a faction of APC members who are not in parliament, okay, who supposedly took the party to court. But then when they supposedly got a victory to overthrow their own standing executive, the majority of the members who form the caretaker committee are under the leadership of the parliamentary opposition. So basically, the parliamentary wing of the party is in control of the party. They became benefactors of the SLPP's use of the judiciary to overthrow the standing executive of the party. But it has to be underlined because they talk, say, the APC executives that were dismantled by the court decision were not democratic, they were not elected. But democracy is consensus. So these very APC politicians, including their parliamentary leader, were in the convention in 2013 at the U building where Ernest Kuruma was appointed, or was supposedly, they agreed that Ernest Kuruma should continue for a third term as chairman and leader of the party. They went as far as coronating him as chairman and leader for life. None of them agreed. In the elections of 2018, the very parliamentary leader of the opposition was also one of the selected candidates, deputy flag bearer candidate of they never complained when they were benefactors. And now they have agreed to be benefactors of the state in operation for dismantle democratic organizations and institutions of the country, because the dismantling and takeover of parliament is the same as the takeover of the APC. It's all orchestrated through the court process. It's all, if you are opposed to the court dismantling of the APC majority in parliament at the inception of this government in 2018, how will you agree 4 years later to be benefactor of the state in your dismantling of your political party and put you in charge?
So Chernoh, are you insinuating that there's some collusion between?
No, I'm not insinuating. I'm saying directly. I'm saying this is not an insinuation.
This is correct that they are colluding with.
They have questions to answer. In the first place, let them tell us the difference between what is the difference between the court removal of APC MPs in the parliament and the appointment of SLPP members to replace them without an election, and also the court removal of a standing APC executive and the court's appointment of members of parliament and non-members of parliament for take over the party. What's the difference between the two? That's one question. The second question is if they are opposed to the court's decision to steal parliamentary majority from the APC at the beginning of the Madabiyo administration, why are they not opposed to them becoming beneficiaries of the party? And mind you, these are lawmakers. 8 of these people are members of parliament. Members of parliament have honorable titles. That's why they are called, they hold a distinguished position in society. That's why they are called Honorable X and X and X. Okay? Honorable Y and Y. You don't understand? The reason is because they are supposed to be distinguished. Privileges, opportunities, and it's in the Constitution.
Well, they can easily say,
no, let me
privileges and they...
Yeah, let me finish this point. Lawmakers, parliamentarians are lawmakers. And if you make the law, you should not be a benefactor of a process that is illegal, because your responsibility as a member of parliament is to make law and to also uphold the law, uphold the Constitution. and the institutions, the rule of law, the institutions that govern the lawmaking process, and the constitutional arrangement of the country. But these parliamentarians, including their leader, agreed to be benefactors of one, in the first place, a court process that is a court process that is led by someone who the General Legal Council, the institution or organization that's responsible for the certification of lawyers, the practice of law in Sierra Leone, has questioned the qualification or eligibility of the so-called judge to practice law in Sierra Leone. So basically, you have an illegal judge who presided over an illegal process and granted an unprecedented illegal decision to members of parliament who are supposed to be lawmakers, upholders of the constitution, to be benefactors of an illegal process issued orders issued by an illegal judge.
Yes,
So,
but
no. So
let's get it. Let's get this clear. Let's just clear this off the way, because the question seems for the pile up in me, and I want to get your perspective.
I know it's very difficult for people to come to terms with this kind of situation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And here's what I want to say. Then here's what I want to say, because I am agreeing with you that all the definition or the description where you make for the MP them, who they are, why they are called honorable, how they are makers of the law, how they are honorable people and enjoy X, Y, Z, which is true on pen and paper. But if you know we country say the powers is rested heavily on the executive, and then away from that, the parliamentarians, some of them that I've spoken to, I believe some of the story the way they talk, the other one them, of course, I take them with a pinch of salt. But you self don't agree, say that the presidency is a dictatorship. And we don't see down there in real time say indeed it is a dictatorship, where they're going to the same parliament and then bulldoze them way and through where they want something, not once, not twice. Are you implying, or like you say, they say straight, that every time there's a collusion between the opposition and the ruling party?
In the first place, why parliamentarians are taking credit? Okay, let's take the public elections bill. They're taking credit for the fact that they stopped a dangerous public elections law from being passed into actual legislation. Then claims that they don't stop the NIN from being inserted, all of the provisions that are dangerous and voter suppression, then claim saying that they can do them. Okay, so if we have to take that as a basis of the conversation, then the question is, why were they unable to stop the so-called, why were they bulldozed in the past? So that is the excuse. This not the, I think this not the excuse. They have taken our politicians have taken the population for granted for far too long. And they always make these tradings and dealings with the lives and the future of the country for many years, almost 60 years now. So if we not been stand up and take direct action, the people that not been stand up and take direct action and make demands on parliamentarians regarding the public elections bill, this is how they would have explained it. Then bulldoze with. Remember, these groups of people imported talks in parliament and pretended they were being stoned. I mean, they even televised video. Look how when I said, no, when I see the danger, we have to tell them in the first place, you have never been threatened when it comes to the question of giving money, approving budgets for the government. Very recently in June, on the 2nd of June or 22nd of June, yes, the Ministry of Finance, 6 months in the fiscal year, cargo a supplementary budget to Parliament asking for more money to spend when Parliament approved that there was no disagreement in all the Parliament. Parliamentarians did not even question the Minister of Finance or the Minister of Finance regarding how they have used the budgetary allocation for fiscal year 2022, when halfway into the quarter, halfway into the year, then the ministry, they come back, they ask for more money. And even at the time when, in the case of NEC, you see them saying that how in June they give them a second quarterly payment. So what happened to the budget that they approved? Okay, why did Parliament not question that? There was no argument. But when it comes to the question of where we caught them and trying to, yes, the people. So they don't do this. This is simple trader them.
It's a pattern.
Okay? Traders in Parliament. They don't want to be told this because it's so difficult for the supporters and for those, because some of it's so painful because You love your party. You love your political leaders. Some of them are your community leaders. Some of them are your brothers. These are people you want to see as mentors. You want to be like them because they dress in very good suits and, they pretend they are fighting for you. They speak very well. And they drive, they drive these nice, flashy SUVs and
SUVs.
all that. And in roads that are very unpaved and road stuff. So the poverty make our people admire. You see them young man, hey, bro, your body, I take 250, just flash them. So you don't understand. And
While
so,
you depriving
yeah,
them of
yeah,
their
my
future
dear.
in a
So
different way.
it is high time. If it's a simple thing, you don't even need further evidence. Look at the court ruling. Go to page. No, read on inside. Just look page 48 and 49. If you allow me, I go read them. But for sake of not for being labor, I don't post on the Facebook. I don't scatter them. The WhatsApp. If the government, if Mother Bio not trust you enough, now we say Mother Bio a dictator, I control them. If he trust you enough for take your party and gear na your hand and say you appoint people and for take over your parties, 12 of the people now you get majority. What did they say about you? If you're not possible,
So
they are
when you talk about them pages, them you talk about
the ruling. I'm talking about the
the
official ruling.
ruling.
Yes.
Okay, no worries. Let me put that up. Go they talk
Yes. Page 48 and 49 of the official ruling. I
Okay,
shared it on
I'll find that.
WhatsApp.
I'll put that up today. We want
Yeah.
clarity. Thank you, Chernoh.
So you find out say if the court where we say na mother be control, I don't capture her, now that make you able remove APC MP in the parliament. That same court they give verdict and give you say, yeah, you now you for appoint, now you for decide and appoint 12 of your party members. What did that mean? It means say the state trust you. The state believes say you're not a trusted ally. Because if the state believes say you're not a real opposition, they're going to harass you. They're going to threaten you. They're going to bring case against you in the first place. Okay, go to 74, paragraph 74. You can read that.
74. Yeah,
Yeah.
go they talk while I find quickly.
Look at the don't jump up. 74, 75. Those two paragraphs. You see?
74.
You don't go too far.
You say 74 or waiting? 74?
Go to page 48.
Yeah, 48 and 49. Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, this is 50. This is 49. This is 48.
Okay, 48.
This is now 48. You just continue.
Okay,
I'll give you that quickly. 73. It is noted that there are a larger number of party organs.
The next page, I for begin.
Okay, 74A.
Go down. Yeah, 74A. Look at it.
So 74A say a political party, as I have ruled in previous rulings, is an unincorporated association that is made up of its membership. All members of a political party cannot possibly be a part of the transitional committee, but it is recognized that the party belongs to its members, and these members are located across the country. They are, however, represented in parliament by members of parliament. The members of parliament are therefore key stakeholders who have a duty to ensure that their party, which is owned by the members they represent, is democratically positioned in the country by ensuring a democratic governance structure is in place. 75. Okay, you want like it 75?
Yeah. Read on. We go.
Okay, take 49. Having considered the matter very carefully, I have decided the composition of the transition committee will be as follows. 1. The plaintiff shall nominate 9 persons to the committee, one of whom shall be the chairman. 2. The leader of the All People's Congress Party in Parliament shall hold consultations with the parliamentary party and thereafter shall nominate the following members to form part of the committee. 1. 2 members of Parliament from the North region. 2. 2 members of Parliament from the Northwestern region. 3. 2 members of Parliament from the Western region. 4. 1 member of Parliament from the Southern region. 5. 1 member of Parliament from the Eastern region. 3. 1 member nominated from the National Young Congress. 4. 1 member nominated from the diaspora region of the party. 5. 1 member nominated from the National Women's Congress. 6. 1 senior legal practitioner of not less than 20 years standing to nominated by the APC legal team in this action.
Stop it now.
Yeah.
So now, even the legal practitioner a few days ago that they appointed that wrote that letter questioning the meeting arrangement of the interim chairman is from the law firm of the is a member of the law firm of the of the
The
party without parliament.
A and B.
So yeah, so you see, so you see the thing. So basically, when you check there were a 21-man committee, 12 of them are basically the result of the parliamentary group. So if they
Right.
hold a quorum, now they are arguing over the fact that the chairman of the committee, which is one faction, is holding meeting without a majority. So basically, if you count per majority count, which means the parliamentary wing can hold meeting and take decisions even without the group of the other faction. So what are we saying? Both groups not get legitimacy over it. They are all the result of a court appointment.
Yeah.
So there are two factions here that are serving as the caretaker executives. One faction appointed from parliament, made up of 8 members of parliament, who are the result of the leadership of the opposition in parliament. So basically, when you look, the parliamentary wing of the opposition are in control. They are in charge of the caretaker. They are now in charge of the party. So basically, the court overthrow the standing executive of the
I think I understand. I think I
SAP.
understand your thesis
So
now. I think
yeah,
I did.
so this is the thing. So the question is, if they were opposed to selection and appointment and all of that, why did they accept to be appointed to take on the role of appointing a caretaker executive? And mind you, this is the executive that is going to be in charge of conducting elections. They are going to constitute a election committee and all of that. Which legitimacy do they have? What is the difference between this committee that is appointed by a court and the APs, SLPP MPs who replace the 10 APC MPs? Logically speaking, when you look at her in a political science sense, it's so clear that the parliamentary representatives of the APC, their leadership and all of that, decided in exchange for the 10 members of parliament that we are taken by the SLPP through the court process. Also, we are given in exchange control over their party. That is simple, whether they accept it or not. And it's very good for their members to know. Why this is important for the politicians, they will argue about it, but this is crucial for us as citizens. If we have a situation where the internal democratic arrangement of political parties are going to be rigged in this fashion, you will end up with leaders who are not the result of popular consensus, but who are the result of a even arrangement in their political party. And when they end up at the level of the state, we will have the same process will lead to Madabio becoming president.
Chernoh, let me butt in quickly on the on something, yeah, we just catch my mind in terms of this whole parliamentary bizarre nature of things where they happen in the 21-man committee and etc. So if it turned out for BC, indeed, the All People's Congress party, as we know them now, both inside parliament and outside parliament, not all of them, not the membership, but the elected one there, are actually colluding with the system, the judiciary, and like you say again, an illegitimate judge or justice made a judgment where now in and they go by, even though they not be opposer at the time where the same courts take action against their membership. But from what I understand of you, they are in collusion. So if they're in collusion, now against their own party in advantage towards the 2023 elections and for promote the SLPP for go Malabio for go for a second term. Can you break this down, please?
Simple question. This is the perfect. That is the main question in the whole arrangement. This is why, when the Africanist press decided to ring the bell on Parliament and tell people and say parliamentarians are secretly trying to pass a law, when a dangerous public elections law that will do nothing but give Madabio a second term. Now this make the APC MPs then vex. They begin attack me. This is the reason. Because the public elections bill as originally conceptualized was, since April, been under in motion. By the end of May, 31st of May, on a Tuesday, 2022, 12:27, my own Illinois time, U.S. Central Time. I mean, don't already get confirmation, say, the bills and all of them were done in a parliament. So when you go read the public elections bill, the original copy, what you will see is the covenant. It represent the covenant, what I can call the covenant between the opposition in parliament and the presidency, where apart from just being given, and remember this thing all happened in March, April, and May, and June. Now within this 4 months, now we talk about this dramatic development. They are not coincidental, they are all related. The court decision happened the same time where these MPs they don't take over their own party. Then at the same time again, they brought all these distractions where we will see. Then at the same time, these laws that we talk about, mine is two chain of laws. The public Elections Act, the Political Parties Bill as well, with the Parliament, and this is why they are talking about proportional representation, because the MPs then end up for control their own political party, and then they pass this elections law. The elections law will have prevented APC supporters or opposition supporters across the country from the western area to the northwest and the northern region for being able to register and to be able to vote. So which means there are two parts to this. And I don't explain, I make I connect the two now because of the opportunity that I get. Yeah. So if they had passed that law, which they wanted to do before the end of June, then it means that by now they are comfortable, which means Madabio knows that regardless of whoever becomes the APC's flag bearer, that person has been set up to lose the next election. Because which means even if you rally your supporters all over, you pull crowds, then you will not be able to have your supporters to register and they cannot vote.
Wow.
So you don't understand, eh? So which means even if you will have but there are many parts to this. So they're not for being care would for be flag bearer. Even if Sabura Kabara be flag bearer, he will rally crowds. Then his supporters from Western area, Northern region, and all of them.
If wake up, they can't join now.
They'll be time when parade with Ante, wait for go lost election, they will say that vote our party. Then dance for Samura, then vote for Madabio. That's how they would have explained it. Because that's what the law was meant to do. So in exchange for the parliamentarians, what they will get, these are young people. Check them all. They are all
yes, I mean, ask what's the motive?
Yeah.
There must be a motive.
Yeah, these parliamentarians, they are all between 35 years to the mid-50s. And this is a movement. So they, in turn, will have control over parliament because of proportional representation. By now, they already think they are in charge of their party. The executives that will come as a consequence of the election, now they talk about resolving membership, how to position themselves. So now they get to make the list of members the way for going to parliament in the proportional representation, which means they will end up controlling the parliament. They will have no direct relationship and responsibility with their constituencies. So the executive now that they will control the party and they will decide whether we go to parliament. They will hold on to parliament, thinking that after Madabio in 10 years, that we own turn will come. So that's the bargain.
So hang on, Chernoh.
Let me just finish because there are second part to it. These are the first part of the arrangement. So if you have a proportional representation, parties like NGC will increase their representation in parliament. They think, especially if they bring the threshold from 25% to 12%, so they will get more seats. Then APC likewise, since and then will get no matter how the voter turnout happen, because according to percentage, even if they lose the presidential election, they will still be in parliament. And now the proportional representation. In a proportional representation, now the party you loyal to, not to the constituency. So which means the party can do comfortable business with the ruling party. It's easy for them. You don't understand it? So that was the essence of this legislation. Now this makes you say there was drama because by stopping the law, we basically destroyed the covenant with the insurance for Madabio in second term. And in exchange for giving him a second term, they will control their party. They would also be in parliament, and they would decide who is going to parliament for the opposition. And don't be surprised, and I don't say this is happening because they have their own 2028 agenda. And they think they have time in their favor because they are young. You don't understand. So if they control their party, now an opportunity for them to get rid of the young gerontocrats, this old guard in their parties, then the young man then take over, or young woman, the young man and young woman then take the party, thinking that after Madabio in term, their own time. They do not care about the prolonging the suffering of the people as long as they are well positioned to prepare to think that after Madabio they will replace him. That's one aspect. Or the second aspect is, since they have their leading contender, their leading flag bearer contender in court in a trumped up charges, if he is also through the court process disabled from contesting, so we then turn around and go say, wait, no, we're not getting nobody. Anyway, the same way the court talk say, made and defer to the parliamentary leadership are the only flag bearer will get. So this is all about power politics. It's all about money. It's all about is a politics of betrayal. It's a culture of betrayal that is steeped and deep within the Sierra Leonean fabric, and is choreographed in political parties. These are all individuals who rose to prominence through being handpicked and appointed. Now they don't use that same rigging. They don't perfect the new rigging mechanism by working with the state to make themselves heads of their parties and remain in institutions. And then, so it is.
So they must really be annoyed.
Why am I saying this? I'm saying, I make it say, since the covenant in the parliament has been destroyed, that fight which is in a parliament, I don't translate into the APC party now fight. Because they are these MPs and now they try very hard to make them appear as they are the genuine faction, okay, in the 21-man committee. So the AP, that make you see that they trigger this current conflict by writing the letter for pretend say meetings are being held on without the following the court order. But what am I saying? There's no difference between the Alfred Peter Conte faction and the parliamentary group, the Young faction. Both factions constituting the 21-man committee are illegitimate in the first place. They are the result of a court-appointed process. They are appointed through a court ruling that is presided or issued by a judge who is not supposed to practice law in Sierra Leone, according to the legal legal practitioners council. Then the lawyers themselves know that. But the dishonesty of the professional class, of our politics, and even people who are beneficiaries of this process is what is preventing us from getting at the truth. In the final, we cannot build a society with deceit and dishonesty and deception. It is impossible. We cannot have national development, national progress when we see truth and we see, say, we country the sink and we decide for remain quiet and remain silent because we can either be direct or indirect beneficiaries of a dangerous situation. These politicians are very dangerous. They've programmed the country in a much more dangerous way. So I am calling on APC members and supporters. And
that's exactly where I was going. How will this all, you kind of end up, because it seemed like
call on each and every member of this 21-man committee. Let them ask them, are they okay with the removal of 10 of the 10 APC MPs in parliament? If they are not, why are they okay with the fact that they are now beneficiaries of the same court process that appointed them as leaders?
But the question might not be necessary, Chernoh, because they get an expiry date.
That's an elementary way. That's an elementary way for start the conversation in their parties. They have.
But they will soon be gone. That's what I'm trying to say. They will soon be gone.
Ordinary members of the APC, ordinary members and supporters of the APC, for understand that their party has been taken over by the SLPP. The caretaker executive is the result of a coup. Are the beneficiaries, the appointees of the coup against their party. So they have a responsibility of rescuing their party. It's so difficult for them because these are the godfathers and godmothers. You don't understand. But in the final analysis, you have no party right now. We do, and it's so painful for we as Sierra Leoneans because we need opposition parties for function. We need civil society organizations for function. We need independent media. And at this make you say the political landscape of Sierra Leone has been hijacked by Madabio because he's not acting alone. Even in the period of the war, we never get a situation where the media, civil society, political parties, or
all in collusion,
and because the opposition way for counterbalance situation, the leaders are the ones who are making it possible for this complete state capture for making it happen. The state capture is not just within government, national institutions, it's also within the democratic organizations, in this case, even in political parties.
Chernoh, quick one. On this same 21-man committee, APC, etc., the two sides seem for they at loggerheads. Are they play acting? Is it theatrical or is it real?
No, that is now a question for the
21-man committee,
for the APC members, and now for read between the lines and decide which one is more dangerous and which one is not dangerous. But one thing we will underline are the fact that among the two factions, the parliamentary group get a majority. Now, if the argument is that the Alfred Peter Conte group in the whole meeting without majority, then an 8-man or 9-man, which means that the 12 people then go hold. In fact, read the letter where Abdul Kabo signed. He's basically saying he don't even show the voting constitute majority. Basically, this fight when they do so, voting don't make it happen now. That the bill who don't kill the parliament. So if we've not been doing now, therefore, because they realize, and when they take the two groups, the Alfred Peter Conte group, largely speaking, they are not politically experienced in the Sierra Leonean context, the way the parliamentary group.
No, not at all. You watch the interviews and you are shocked.
So in fact, when they set him up for that interview, because they want for me appear saying he is the problem, so that the parliamentary group will hide. Even the journal, but that's a different conversation. But I believe there are experienced politicians in the APC. There are experienced analysts in the country who are seeing this situation. They know that what I'm saying is the truth. Some of them cannot say it. But me go able to say it. And which is why I think, if I do not say it and help the people of Sierra Leone for understand that, we are all going to be victims of the situation. We are
Chernoh,
already, because me, my life has been threatened as a consequence of this ongoing work. And none of we are in
absolutely.
exile now as a consequence of trying to hold government accountable. So
Absolutely, and we know you and the Babadi Kamara, and so many of them, Office of the First Lady, other government officials, some so foolish enough for send you via text messages, with their numbers, which are kind of incriminating themselves, but time will tell.
yeah.
Did your action and the action of others, within the social media circle, help for put pressure on Parliament at some point when they say Parliament when they get a closed session for deliberate, this very bill? Was that as a consequence of the pressure that they bring for bear on Parliament?
Well, not to be one, the people. I want to give the credit to the Sierra Leonean people, both at home and abroad, who we see the problem, we notice the problem, we bring them to the domain, like I say, we drag Parliament to the Luma, and then
Yeah,
call it.
I like the
Yeah.
description because
So call,
we
yeah,
arouse the feelings of the
yeah,
people,
call
and
the
the
people
people
and say,
turn up and show up.
I can't observe the transaction at the Kawyard or the Luma. Make una see how they work.
Yes.
So Parliament tried very hard for sell. They're not able because the public spectacle was brought on Parliament. I don't get people then call me and tell me say they've never paid attention to the internal dynamics of Parliament as they did in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So I want to thank the people of Sierra Leone. I want to commend them. I want to appreciate them. My appreciation for them and what they did is enormous. I go to bed and sleep so happy that the people that take the action, we would not have been able to do it, but we'll make the call. People did not only send messages to Abbas Gune MPs, they were even sending me screenshots of proof.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They get frustrated. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said,
So the same process again can be tinap again and tell una MP then, and then why I say, well, you want the independence of your party, you as APC members.
what I do know, Chernoh, is the people that don't take special interest. There's a paradigm shift. There's a cultural shift, if you will like, and people
Yeah.
are actually listening. Then they take no, I don't want to call them orders, but then they carry out their civic obligation. I mean, they are being educated, in a civic format. Chernoh, I wonder we move on to the public elections bill. I wonder we talk about what about Lily Beats. According to you, and not only, no, of course, not only you, but a lot of pundits they don't weigh into it as well. And due credence has to be paid who's due, and you've already commended the people of Sierra Leone. The public elections bill, it be then compress them with some other things then where they lump inside. And due to the pressure that come for bear on Parliament, and another thing I want for let you deal with, you touch on a little bit, but it not be specific. So before then they pass that bill, in other words, what them they expect for do as per my understanding. Now for pass a bill where inside that bill, other bills then were embedded. So once them pass, and that mean all the other bills them are passed. Was this the case? And if this not been the case, waiting and pull for let them pass and waiting them pass. I want to understand about the NIN, the population, and I will let you explain to Fambulem about this system it really mean, and whether like the speaker say Natiwe already did not the constitution. So it's not, I mean, so it's a law. Even though there are elements or conditions to that law, but it give you the impression like say it cannot be deliberated or you're debated because the law, the president get prerogative. Can you break this down for us, please?
Yeah, you're right. The public elections bill get different layers, but key to what we talk about, they get anti-democratic provisions, and one of those clauses within add in are the incorporation of the National Civil Registration Authority data or system into the electoral register. So instead of them use an electoral register, they want to use the NCRA civil register. And the reason why they want to do that because they know say the civil registration process will prevent the majority of citizens we would likely vote against the government from voting. So now one way where them want to use for suppress voters, and that was in the law. This is the idea of the NIN that you're not going to register or properly register if you not get a national identification number, and you can only get a national identification number by going to the NCRA. The company where they don't even as we talk now, It's so difficult to get an NIN number. So the parliamentary, and that direct violation to the constitution, which provides the criteria for a citizen for participating in election, 18 years of sound mind, a citizen. So by attempting to put that one, they were basically trying to amend the constitution through the back door. Okay. Then also they added the fact that the president supposed for get the right for dismiss an electoral commissioner on grounds of misconduct, including the fact that the electoral commissioner can nullify votes.
Yeah.
So all them things have been did it, including the idea of a proportional representation. So all of these get constitutional implications. Basically, we are trying to amend the constitution using a secondary legislation without following the actual process and procedure. And mind you, the discussion around even the constitutional infractions, the way the constitutional implications, they only happen at the second reading. These MPs, they don't do pre-legislative discussion. At the pre-legislative discussion, this is where they will have identified all of them to say, no, we'll remove this. They not be expect, say, the public will come to, will drag them to the Luma, where these transactions are do this by in front of we see this time. So it is only at that point, in fact, right into the committee stage, that is where they were now pointing all of this. So if it been left to them, they will just abandon. Shame make now just more left this lawyer, more just left this businessman abandon her, because that would have been shameful for them. So then decides, okay, we agree something then bad, something there. This is where the idea of proportional representation came in, because now they know they cannot debate it in parliament, because attempting to debate it is even treason. Now they decide, say, the president get right for doing a proclamation. Basically, they were about to commit the treason. It's like a poison cup. They don't take the poison cup or the suicide vest. They don't give Mother Biona and say, yeah, commit the suicide on your own. Basically, they're encouraging him, saying there are two roads to parliament. But the one is a default position where there are no dates for election and demarcated constituencies and all of that. So the MPs in the tribe for talks to the president get right for declare a default position for the conduct of election, which is a violation of the actual constitutional requirement. Basically, they say it can discard the constitution and rule by decree, which they wanted to do. They wanted to give him the legal authority for organized election as they want. Because public attention don't come on them now, and they don't, Abbas Mundu don't pretend say he's an upholder of the constitution, and he knows that doing so, they will be accused of treason. And we have already called them saying that treason, we are commit treason in front of we. So they cannot do it. Now they are encouraging the president to proclaim the organization of election according to his own desire, a PR system outside of the requirements of the law. So this is what we said. Although there are two ways to parliament, there are two roads to parliament. One is a paved road that is smooth, and the main road. Why will you leave a main road and decide to take bush road if only not for destroy the vehicle? You have a new vehicle. This new vehicle, you get two roads for drive. You get backyard road where you get gravel and all kind of poto and bad road. People say drive and they destroy your car. And you get the coal tar with a main road, smooth road and straight road. Now you suggest say that two road there, one bad road and one good road. If you mean well, why will you even suggest the existence of a bad road? So basically, they are trying to get the president to drive the country through the rugged road, and that means he's going to destroy the country. To even suggest the existence of that road when there is a well-paved and straight road is deceit, is dishonesty, is evil intention. But because they've been bribed, they've been compromised, they wanted to do this, now they're not able to do it. They have to massage the president who and make him be like what fella would call act like a zombie. Lead him to his death and say, go ahead and drink the poison in the cup. That's what they want to do. So the public elections bill, as we say in summary, was the covenant between the compromised opposition in parliament and the ruling party, where they were trying to program the electoral landscape to give Madabio an undue advantage the opportunity to predict the outcome of the election in his favor. So they will give him second term by rigging the election. And this makes them in the same more focus on writing finances. So then they focus on rigging the election. So the complaint that we don't lost information, we don't have information, is coming from these politicians. And they feed it to their small supporters for talking, because they feel say by so doing, I will be forced, the African people will be forced to leave the question of political corruption, the program stealing of the elections, and focus on finances, which they know now they've been badly exposed, and they fear to be held accountable if they lose power. Now, how to hang on to power? And they're so desperate to hang on to power by all means, they even destroy the image of the country by programming this random police violence and give the country bad name and image. They don't care about that one. As long as people are focused on that kind of violence all over, we get a situation where rogue regimes can even stage demonstrations, can even pretend they are arresting people and negotiate with them people, and they say, "I'm going to go wait." These are known patterns of
Oh yeah,
detention.
absolutely. I do agree. We've seen them.
You have a situation where they can even arrange with you, no, it makes you don't arrest you, but then later they go keep you in one fine house. They say you didn't jail. Then the police go even issue statements say you didn't under arrest, you don't violate the law. So people will be focusing on that kind of drama where the state orchestrate while the state is doing something else that they don't want the public to see. This is why
such as the mystery container, LAJ, just take your attention off the real game.
Well, for people who believe in those kind of stories, they can follow it. This is why we have never budged. You don't understand? We not ever. If you watch, I have told them repeatedly that I cannot be distracted. My focus remain exactly where it is. The programmed effort of the government and its allies to steal the election and to make sure that they continue, because they need that to protect their stolen wealth. So I know the manifestations of corruption and the correlation between financial corruption and political corruption and how it manifests itself when it has become a matured state capture. So there are elements of this process why don't they look at for the last over 2 years and why they report. There are things that I did not found out, and miss every learn every time as I go, because the more you investigate, the more the surprises show before you. It is for the last since April to now, I have come to see the political class, the desperation of the political class in new ways, and now are able to see also the alliances, the interest group alliances in the country, which is scary. And this is what has kept our country impoverished and stagnated for the last 60 years. And we always think, we begin to say this leader good passes. So it is high time the people, ordinary people, begin to make demands of what they want, how they want the country, the program they look forward to their leaders, and tell them this is what we want. This is the importance of this direct action that we initiated, which I think we have to commend the people for responding to it. It's an example, it's a template for what they can do, or how significant their action is. Now, they're no longer for stop murder bill for thief detection.
Indeed, Chernoh, people's power, absolutely agree. But Chernoh, on the issue of the same public elections bill, I mean law now, of course it's a law now. What we get previously and what we get now? What are the difference? What's all this fuss about the public elections bill? Break that down for me.
Really, there's no difference between the old law and the new law. So now we wait for the Attorney General and Minister of Justice for make them print the final document. Then we go observe now the final document, the so-called Public Elections Bill of 2022 and the Public Elections Act of 2012, the one we then get 10 years ago. But I will tell you, say, there's practically no significant difference between the two. What they wanted to write into that law, they were prevented from doing it. So for cover shame, they said, I don't pass it. Because they're already so that it's a case of where they brought something to the market to sell, we prevented them from selling. Now that conflict it don't translate into the political parties. So the backlash now you see now in the APC 21-man committee, the same kind of backlash they happen inside SLPP. We know they don't know, but they can grumble among themselves.
Yeah, because then they're power.
They blame Abbas Bundu right now. Abbas Bundu said now na power, we take charge of my own mission now. Now get their own argument. There's argument in all, but this is the other thing. One way they wanted to deceive the diaspora and the women of Sierra Leone is by saying they don't give diaspora voting, they don't give Tusim, they don't address the question of Tusim. then don't put 30% quota into the women. These
Yeah, all
people,
diversion.
yeah, these were all ways for me people that be one we could focus on and
Yeah,
not look at the dangerous. But so where we don't put, and see, they all know basically
absolutely. Absolutely, Chernoh. That's quite true. I mean, for those of us who don't study this government for the past 4 years, we can almost write a book on them now. We understand them pattern in the and when you can come up with them press statements them and other pundits and come out with the press statement them and when we see the pattern like the former police chief who we for talk about briefly, let me just hear you thoughts about a man way for all intents and purpose was a buffoon, but he helped the administration in many ways because he been entertain people them and make people and take their eye away from the real game. But we do understand the distraction, and that we keep to tell people focus on the real issue. We just get months away from election. NCRA, National Commission Registration, and the NIN. What's this big fuss about it? The reason why they ask you this,
yeah.
I mean, if people are not registered, to whose advantage it will play? I mean, because it turns like say we want blame the you
Yeah,
understand my point with it?
already, say the news say the NCRA registration will be take place. Many of the entered data were mostly supporters of, in the opposition heartlands. You see the so-called statistics result. That is the indication. Now, if you allow proper registration, and which we can see, proper registration, people that register, the number of registered voters, therefore, expose Malam O's statistics. Not only expose the regime,
I see.
it will invalidate the census result, the so-called midterm census result, and
Yeah.
the census result, they can't turn to tissue paper. You don't understand, eh? So, and this is what they are struggling to hide because if people are allowed to register, everybody wants to register and participate in the election. This is the first time where people are now saying we
All
want
man
to
get
government for
interest.
election.
Yeah.
And they are conscious of that. They don't know the people that are ready, the small bobo and now first-time voters, all old-time voters, everybody is willing to teach Madabio and his arrogant government a lesson. So because they are aware of this, they want to rig the election ahead of the voting because they don't know now say. Now it has become difficult for political leaders, for politicians to rig election on the day of the polling or at the polling station. So one way they try to rig elections is by suppressing voters, preventing them from participating in the elections, or by candidate exclusion. By the way, this has been a perfect strategy for politicians in French countries. Anglophone speaking politicians are now learning the process because for a long time when you look at the democratic electoral process, electoral democracy in most African countries that speaks English, rigging of elections usually happen at the polling station. Over voting, ballot stuffing,
The stuffing,
change of votes and things like that. But
change
for
of ballot.
French politicians had developed an advanced system of rigging elections ahead of the polls through citizenship laws, through legislations, institutions. So by the time you get to the polls, they already know the outcome of the election. And they do that through voter suppression or candidate exclusion. You see, Ivory Coast 92, so where they decided to use the law to exclude Alassane Ouattara, it led to conflict. In France, you saw where Dominique Strauss-Kahn had to be accused of sexual charges because he was going to be a real threat to Sarkozy at the time. So
Yeah, it was rumored for win.
yeah,
For people.
so you see, say for French politicians, they had now we own, so then we man they are now, and now they say one for develop the same kind of pattern for say if we allow the people we have a vote, the landslide, the long rope when they will give bad abuse, you go against, you go run away. So now, how we prevent the people there from? Let us introduce the civil register in exchange for the electoral register. And why the African specification? Because we know these things. We've studied, apart from just being journalists, we're also people where they read about political science, the art of politics, and all of these things. So we are into academia and we see rogue systems across the world. So when I saw the public elections bill, I see the NIN. That was all I needed to see for me. And I know this is the mass issue. This is the issue about excluding the voters. If you look, that is the only article in fact we published. That will highlight. which is the issue, then people are drawn to the conversation. All the other issues now fall in place. So the next strategy of the government for rigged elections is the court process, where they are trying to exclude potential candidates who would defeat an election and impose their own candidate with the handpicked candidate of their choice. So this is why you have the case against Samura Kamara and other people like that, which is a different conversation. But
Chernoh,
these are known patterns, and this is why you also have people like Kamaremba still sitting in jail. Nobody is talking about him, or people
yeah,
are.
Chernoh, while we did on the issue of while we did on the issue of elections, very interesting, of course. This not the most critical thing now where they approach now the calendar. Um, I don't talk to many people, including some census experts. I don't bring one or two now the show before. But I've never had your view. Of course, your views are known because you've written about it. But now we talk about election and the role where these census get for play and waiting you just don't out this way again. How the government is struggle now because if they do certain things, that will expose them on the other side. In other words, all this big fuss about this midterm census, it will go in vain. All the money spent, all the action, the effort will go in vain. Where exactly you see this they go? Will this midterm census be discarded or is they back now the people and for begin demand some kind of justice and social order? How do you see this? Where did they go?
No, we all get a responsibility. This program that you've just hosted, this conversation that's going to 2 hours now, it is basically part of the effort for educate the people. It's no small thing. It's a big thing. You don't understand. This is 2 hours of your time that you will have used in other directions that will even earn you money or time for family and other things or rest, which we all need really. But we're devoting this time as part of a civic duty for educate people them. And it's creating its own addition to other efforts that are happening on the ground. So I believe these isolated individual and collective efforts that we're doing as Sierra Leoneans within the continental side of the country will force the leaders to act right. You don't understand? We have to now we get for make with democracy work. Democracy cannot function in the absence of citizens' participation, citizen interest. Deliberate participation of citizens have to be what we have to urge. So we for call on each and every citizen of Sierra Leone in the country and outside of the country for put pressure on the leaders or individuals who are in charge of our democratic institutions, whether they are elected or appointed, to understand that they cannot mess with the future of the country as they have done in the past. And we also have to appeal to our friends who are non-Sierra Leoneans, friends of Sierra Leone, people who have an interest in democracy and democratization and global peace, for understand that they also have a moral responsibility for impress upon the government of Sierra Leone and its associated colleagues in the country for understand that they owe the people of Sierra Leone the constitutional responsibility for protect the rights, the freedoms, the civil liberties, and the properties of Sierra Leoneans. That is a task every Sierra Leonean must do. We have to make it as part of our prayer, our daily activities, routine activities. Even if it's 1 hour in a day, we have to spend that to talk to our friends, our colleagues, our fellow Sierra Leoneans to understand that our country is at a critical juncture and we face a collective danger in this regime, that our responsibility for make sure we have a free and fair elections. Any individual who want to participate in the election, either as a voter or as a candidate to be voted for, must be given the equal space and the opportunity for participating in the democracy. We are all citizens. And we forget the same equal treatment as citizens. Our rights should not be taken away by a group of men or women who think that it is their time, it's their own duty to exclude others because they want to guarantee themselves, the only right for remain as people in positions of power. And we for able to do this independent of whether we agree with particular people or we disagree with them. Every Sierra Leonean's right is the same as your own right. The marginalization of one Sierra Leonean, even if he belongs to another party, should make you feel offended as a Sierra Leonean. So me, what I don't decide for myself, and for say, from now moving forward, I will make sure I devote my time, my energy, my brain, and everything that I can, and deploy them in the interest of Sierra Leone and make sure that we get free and fair election. If the people of Sierra Leone decide say they want for make Madabi continue as president, let it be based on a genuine decision from the people. Okay? Then we will respect the democratic process, even if we disagree. But we cannot support a situation where the will of the people will be undermined, because then we create the opportunity for hidden conflict that will
Yeah.
develop into a volcano that will consume all of us. And
Yeah.
that is what we have to stop. And also, it is our duty. For me, I will use every opportunity where I get for talk to anybody who I know within Sierra Leone or outside of Sierra Leone, people who are friends of Sierra Leone, to make sure that they help the people of Sierra Leone to be able to have a free and fair election. Because if they not do that one day, the country will be in crisis. The global community or friends of Sierra Leone will also be consumed by that particular event, because they will not leave the country to be in flames.
Okay.
So I think that Naimi don't decide for do, and I hope so everybody for find out exactly what is within their own limits that they can contribute to that process, even if in a one phone call in a day. Even the text messages that you sent to Abbas Bundu created its own impact. So nobody's contribution in this process for whole government accountable, make sure that we make things right for the country small. Don't underestimate that. So now that I get for say, we go for the spend time for think about what can we do as citizens to prevent war, to prevent the destruction of our democracy. Democratic backsliding should not be encouraged in any part of the world, more so in our country.
Okay. Let's just read a few comments and acknowledge a few people waiting in the chat room. And ladies and gentlemen, just a quick reminder with the host Chernoh Alpha Ember of the Africanist Press, who has done so much in outing corruption. I know some of the comments then are not going to be favorable, but at least let's make it academic. When I say academic, let it be reasonable. That's what I mean. We also live stream now two platforms them simultaneously. This is on Facebook and YouTube. So they ask Una on Facebook, kindly follow or like our page. We can't be having thousands of people they watch or they support, but then the likes you just see 50 people, 100 people, 200 people. Come on, let we stop this kind of thing. Let we be more engaging. After all, the common denominator here is we country Sierra Leone. So let's take a quick look at some of these comments. And I begin with Mansare Medley. You are a hero like John Lewis of Georgia. When see something, do something. Okay, many thanks, Mansare Medley. I believe say they say that to you. Celia Boma. Mr. Chernoh, you are not just an investigator, but a political analyst. Obviously, he's a political scientist, a social scientist as well. Edward Amara, too much of blame game. Edward, if you can emphasize more what you mean by the blame game, because we not see this like blame game. When people are doing something, you talk about it. You don't ever seem for the criticize. You only seem for offend the people already criticize. Come on, Amara. It's been a while. I hope all is well, brother. Fatmata Bangura, Mr. Chernoh is too detailed. None of them can challenge him. The whole world is watching. Quite true. Samuel Bangura, Chernoh, it is because of exposure. That's why bulldozing this dubious bill did not work. Correct? Martha Bangura is watching from London. Hi, Martha. Abubakar Rashid. Wow, amazing. Chernoh is so much detail and exactly perfect in explaining the political landscape of our country. Sorry, Ibrahim Kanu, this Chernoh is so phenomenal in his analytical comments on the dangerous nature of the politics in Sierra Leone that one could only say he is God sent to encourage every Sierra Leonean to be aware of his or her political rights. I hope all the comments are as such favorable so far. Daughter of the Monsoon, thank you very much. Celia Bomacheno, are you going to vote in the coming election? Chernoh will probably answer that later. Bye bye, Kamara. There's OE, Esiogo, Akpo Duno, and 18 other people are watching with you. Daughter of the Monsoon. That's the key. Free and fair. Not imposed on us or forced or coerced. This is why we all like Chernoh, they say, therefore, do something about this. Not just sit by. If you sit down silently and let something happen, you are equally complicit. Pick up a phone, make a phone call, send a tweet, engage somebody. Abu Bakr Rashid, I followed the 175 independence anniversary of the Republic of Liberia when President Buhari of Nigeria gave a stone warning to the three countries that will be having elections in 2023 to be free, fair, and democratic. It's a second election when they come, but that's a good one. He won them. Let's see what will happen. Sheikh Kakanu is watching. Tigi Kaba is blessing to our Mama Salone. That's for you, Chernoh. Jeremiah Stembes, he say, it is always a pleasure listening to Mr. Ba. Matu Hassan, thank you, Mr. Ba. God bless you, sir. Alusan Sise, kudos, brother Chernoh, for such a wonderful job. Saliu Kamara, you are the best, brother. Matu Kamara. Dr. Ba, you have saved our beloved country, Sierra Leone. I forget to say you get doctor to the name now. Congratulations, Dr. Ba.
No, I know
Oh, you don't
convocated.
okay.
Yes,
Somebody don't call you doctor
I
already.
know I made address me with both title.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't want fake doctor.
Yeah. The institution no go allow that.
Yeah, no worries. M. Sunday Moses, quite correct, Mr. Chernoh, but will not be subjugated to the will of a few national rogue elements. God bless you, Chernoh. Ibrahim Sise, I'm so much certain that we don't have the capacity to govern ourselves as a nation. Aliu M replied to Celia. Chernoh, are you going to vote in the comments so somebody replying for you? It is a murderous mendicratic. I hate these words on this platform, that mendicratic word. So we just blot over that. It is a murderous government going to allow Chernoh to register and vote freely without arrest and or possibly being killed. That's a question. Chernoh is a force to reckon with. That's snowish, so-ish. May Allah protect you. Salema to Vincent is with you from UK. Hi, Saleh. Samuel Kabo, Chernoh, thank you for giving us the light. Saidu Timbo, Chernoh is a political science genius. Albert Morrison, God bless you, Mr. Ba, for this exposure. Christine Cooper, it has been a magical to watch Sierra Leonean take the power that belongs to them after Chernoh brought their attention to what is really going on. We are watching, history is unfolding. Jeremiah Sembes is saying, I never take the election bill serious until Mr. Ba start to unveil its dubious and wicked deeds. Akin Kamara, Mr. Ba, God bless you. So all the comments seem for they in your favor. Only one person talk about blame. Well, not too bad, Mr. Amara, but at least you see 99 people for, and you posit your own position, which again not bad blame game. But like I say, if you can expand them a little bit, I can put that forward to Chernoh for expand on them or expatiate. Anyway, Chernoh, let's continue with the program. And Famulema, thank you very much. Una way they watch and una let we continue for share. Like I say, simultaneously with the share, the numbers are not too great. We get just a little about 200, but we got about 150 on Facebook and about 40 on YouTube. Not too bad. We know say the numbers will grow subsequently, probably not the live version. Chernoh, well done, well said. You all the thing the way they say, and I want to talk about one other institution where very critical to the election process where also they come, and this is now the institution of the police, which has been accused of so many things, then brutality and you name it. The institution of the police, which been headed by IG Sovula, now being sacked. I wonder what you make of this sacking. Have you got any relevant information will lead to his sacking? Has he got to do anything with that container? Or is just the shuffling of the pack by the president as election they come and not trust this man any longer? He wants somebody else who will serve a better purpose with the electioneering where they come.
I will really be doing a disservice to what I had decided to do, which is for stay away from commenting on Sovula and this ongoing drama that is created by the state, and for obvious reasons. But if I can say anything, the supposed sacking of Sovula has not come as a surprise. This was choreographed way back in April. I believe and this is something I've said privately to other people, that if the public elections bill would have been passed into law before the Thursday of Mada being returned from Geneva, from that trip we been go the AU summit, This will have been a decision if I don't take. How we been think safe will happen. This is how we had seen the scenario. Now you have a situation where the police was accused of running a torture detention center, Benghazi, okay, where we are told people have been brutalized, dehumanized, and all kinds of brutality. We are even told this is a concentration, is a modern day concentration camp in the sense of the word, where we are told citizens were arrested and they were forcefully shaved. Huh? So that are the extent of human rights violations. This went international news.
Yeah.
So at the same time that this was happening, we knew there was already a process in Parliament to get a dangerous legislation passed into law. And since the time when we intercept the effort of parliamentarians for smuggle the bill into law, you find out say the so-called Benghazi news went dead, right? Right? It
Yeah.
quiet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now let us say that will not be done intercept the law. That law for don't be passed before the 30th of before even the week when Mother Build the return. You go for check from the 20th when the president day out.
When they left, yeah.
So, yeah, by the end of June, if I don't know. So by the end of June, when the president for return, what we had expected him to do, this is the original scenario. If I don't come back, he sack the police boss, basically. So the police boss will take blame for this animated violence that we saw, choreographed violence that we saw. So that if it appears say they don't sack the police boss because of
Yeah.
the abuse, the police
The
brutality
people
in the
there.
country.
Yes.
And then the president will have ordered the release of people who are supposedly detained as a consequence of the high-handedness of the police under IG Sovula. Then the
And take
president
the
will even
credits.
apologize. The president will even have apologized to the
Wow.
public. That everything would have been normal. That would have been the end of the drama. But me, the appeal to the politicians and now, the parliamentarians and the ruling party officials and the police, una help the musicians who are supposedly now in detention. Let them find a way for release them.
Yeah.
Because the drama the drama is now over. We have stopped the public elections bill. Please help these detainees to find a way to come out of the detention and also find a way to compensate them publicly so we know how much. This is not a ridiculous statement, basically. But this is why I have decided to keep quiet on some of the things that I know that are happening behind the scenes, which I will talk about in my book that is coming. I'm writing a book, right? I write a book on BO. Say, I wrote a book on Ernest Kroma's government, two books, basically.
Well, of course, where you be very brutal
So,
with your choice
yeah,
of words,
so
and
I
there
am,
are people that
yeah,
say
so I am
you
basically,
they
I am
support you,
also
you support them.
I am almost finishing a book on the BO regime, on this nature of state capture of our politics. So some of the details of the book also therefore include investigations that might deal with or stories that happen behind the scenes, especially when it comes to this idea of police brutality, the arrest and detention of opposition politicians, ordinary citizens, the brutalization of women, and all of these demonstrations and this, both inside the country and outside of the country.
Yeah.
For 20 years that I have observed Sierra Leone politics, and really I know many of these politicians directly, personally. But I am really at a point where the politics of Sierra Leone is like a theater, is a theater performance on stage. That's how I see it now. So some time ago, I told someone, this is two I don't talk self publicly. I say, Salon don't can a situation where if my brother or my sister calls me and comes in front of me and say, this policeman don't arrest me. So I first have to investigate to find out whether by this person, we can say don't arrest her, whether him and the police, they not to the arena corner for say, when they come to me say, let me for present an arrest. Because we have gotten to a situation where it's hard and difficult to trust what you see on the stage. You have to make an extra effort to look how what you see on the stage got to the stage in the first place. How did it happen? and waiting at the factors there and the things we animate and propel and for making arrive at the stage. That is what I pay attention to. So I am going to throw some. I'm holding myself back on some of these conversations, but I think say, Sofula is already due for retirement. Should have been gone long time ago, and it was obvious he was going to go with all this drama we don't happen. So
But
this
that's
is
the that's the that's the
an
that's
issue.
the question. That's the question we sort of
So,
can
but the
I mean,
police, the
because
character
if
of the
he's due for
police, the
retirement,
character of the
why
police,
sack? Why sack?
yeah, the character of the police, because the character of the police is not going for change. You don't understand? Because by virtue of the current situation we have, they're going to do the bidding of the government. They're going to do the bidding of the regime. But this is not to say that police officers are not dissatisfied. I have at my own vantage point, I will tell you, say, I get even live discussions, videos of police officers grumbling about the state of affairs in the country in police stations.
Oh
Some of
yes,
them are even dreaming about the return of what they think was good for them
was
in the
evil.
old days.
Yeah.
So, and the higher ranks of the police, the top brass, some selected view at the top, are the ones who are benefiting, similar to what we showed in the case of the army, where we showed that the salary of a colonel or lieutenant colonel was less than the salary of a driver at the National Electoral Commission. So the same way, the salaries of the police, regular police officers at the lower ranks of the police force, is the same as the salary of the correctional service, the prison officers at the lower ranks of. In fact, the senior commander of the police is earning less than an executive secretary at the Electoral Commission. So we don't show all that here. I think we've arrived at a point where the public sector workforce has become demoralized by looking at the loot of public resources and the use of politics to compensate uh, political party appointees, party militants with positions where they get salaries 10 times more than regular people who have deployed their life and their future in the civil and public service. We have to correct that. This is why you have a situation where in the universities, we have universities where 80% or 85% of the teaching staff are people who do not have terminal degrees in the fields in which they are teaching. People with terminal degrees in their own areas of specialization do not want to be in the universities because the universities do not pay. You see, right now, academics are starved of their July pay simply because the president is looting the country and political appointees in the public service are receiving exorbitant salaries, benefits, per diems, and all of this. We don't publish all of this. So you find out that every professor or academic with a PhD is looking forward to be a consultant at State House, to be a political appointee, because that is where they get good pay. So we have to have a situation where we address the question of the wages and salary disparities in the country. It is one of the things that we have to fix in order for make we reduce this level of caustic politics, this level of where people will know, like parliamentarians, some of the parliamentarians will know that some of their leaders are not doing right, but they have to support them because it's warlord politics, where you have to support your warlord in the politics because that is the guarantee that you will have to be in committees, in positions where you get better salaries, per diems and rent allowances and travel allowances and other kinds of allowances. And these are what we don't show. So for us, it's not just a question of producing numbers and bank statements, about showing the DNA of the rotten nature of Sierra Leonean society and its politics and what has to be done. Because I tell you, if salaries are harmonized and academics are paid good salaries, there is nobody with a PhD who will leave the university and come to work for an illiterate president who cannot even read a speech in parliament. This is impossible. You don't get a well-educated somebody, well-trained intellectual, academic, who will decide that the only place he is going to function is a public service to steal public money. I mean, we made this list of over 200 consultants from State House to other MDAs who, and their rent allowances, including judges, and some of them are PhD holders. But then go to a country where the university has no PhDs. has no people with terminal degrees. The professoriate does not exist. They know they go to the university to go teach because the university classrooms, professors do not even have decent offices. They don't even get better salaries. Look now, month done, unable to pay them. But people in the higher ranks of the political appointees, look at the salaries who don't publish. So we get for this is something Parliament will have addressed by passing the wages and compensation bill into law. But what did they do? They decided to advocate for their own benefits and salaries to the extent that they even put into law, say if they are sick in their country, they should be flown abroad for treatment.
Yeah.
What an indictment to the class. What an indictment. That is to say that they do not think that they will deploy money into the development of social service delivery in the country where they have to loot money in their country, and if they are sick, they have to be treated. But if they thief money in the country, when they are sick, they cannot admit themselves into the hospital. They have to fly abroad.
Absolutely. Brilliant point.
Shame. National shame and disgrace.
Yeah, national shame. I wonder how they should feel.
Bury their heads. Classical demonstration of shame and the shameless and the shameless nature. How they don't get conscience, because by writing that into law in itself clearly is an indictment to this.
Where they stand. Absolutely, Chernoh, I do agree with you, and people are listening to this. And I make us say, people have been coming empowered and emboldened by their conversation they have, because they are listening and they are taking up interest in anything there. Chernoh, I wonder we're going to the banking sector a little bit, because like I be saying with the chamot all about the place, and I want key center or nerve center, especially when it comes to election money. So I wonder what you make of the bank governor, who many times I believe he don't make too many public gaffe there, but very serious enough. Bribery of 68 million wasted, and recently we heard about 800 billion. But before the 800 billion, redenomination. Your thoughts, please.
The bank governor is a disappointment, because you cannot have a bank governor that presides over a central bank where there are no control systems, where people look at check when we publish the details of cash withdrawals ordered by the president, and you get this in January 2021 to February. We will publish these articles that were cinematic in nature. When you look at, you see Musa Jajwa and Mohamed S. Bayo or Siddiqui Jabi, where they are going into the bank one after another to carry loads of bags of money outside of the bank, ordered on the instruction of the office of the president. Then a friend of the bank governor in a conversation raised, hey, Professor Kalo, this not problem. Why this? He say no. He say me not tell her. He say in not tell her. He say no, he's serious. He say in not tell her, because if somebody carry the check na the bank, you know, go stop the check. That is the central bank governor, who sees his own role and responsibility in the administration of the central bank banking regulation and administration, sees his own role as the equivalence of a bank teller. So when the bank is talking about missing money, you should not be surprised where that money is going. Ask yourself, where has the massive cash withdrawals orchestrated by the office of the president alone, the office of the chief minister, and all those details that we've published? Those are illustrative. And it's a pattern that is across the administration.
Yeah.
So in a very serious country where you have serious institutions like Parliament, they will have invited the bank governor and the Ministry of Finance long time ago, since the beginning of our publications, for question them regarding these transactions. How are they done? Because they flout this is not just corruption. They completely trample upon financial regulations regarding banking rules governing the management of cash, the management of the finances of the country. So we have a gang of people who are in power, who thinks the central bank is the equivalent of the president's piggy bank, where he can just open his wallet and just loot and take money, and the bank governor thinks that is cool. And the bank governor goes to Parliament to explain. Now, there's even an effort on the part of the bank governor for pretense the opposition is responsible for the shortage of money in the country. And one way he is doing that by alleging that The money is being hoarded in the homes. And somebody, I had a discussion with a colleague of mine in trying to understand this madness. Then he say the bank governor, then the thing say opposition people and keep the money inside their house. So now they for bring new money. So that, and they say you know people withdraw money, you know people bank so amount of money so that the money where they hold in the old loans will expire at their hand. So that by the time the election will come, they don't get money again for spend. So
Yeah.
that is unimaginable, because let's assume that that is even a theory we can work with. People who hoard money do not hoard local currency that do not have value. I mean, since the last 4 years,
You get for keep tons and
yes,
tons of it.
the leon has been tumbling, has been reduced to the equivalent of paper. Even paper now, say if you go use them for right, you don't understand. Our currency has no value, and so to think that the value of the currencies as a result of cash hoarding of cash and all of that is itself is a poverty of economic knowledge on the part of the of a bank governor who is supposedly an economist. So these are the problem. This is a disappointment to even the friends of the bank governor who had thought about him as an intellectual, a professor that teaches economics and all of that kind of thing. So, but this is what corruption does to beautiful people without the independence of spirit to say no to correct situations. But our central banking system has been at the heart of the crisis that we've experienced, going back to Sambangura and how we've been unable to have an independent central bank, because really where the central bank is independent and it operates according to the able carry out in supervisory role over the banking, the banking system in the country, both commercial banks and other kinds of banking operation, the financial system will be stronger. Not only that, the Accountant General's office will be strengthened. And then you will have the audit service strengthened. You have an oversight from Parliament that checks into all of these institutions, make sure that they are complying with the rules and regulations governing the financial arrangement of the country. You would need no anti-corruption commission, because where these oversight mechanisms, nobody should be able to take a check to the Bank of Sierra Leone and easily cash it, just like the way they've been doing since Madabio is in power. If the bank governor be apply the Accountant General's department and the financial secretary, you know, the grab them right later to the Accountant General's department. Say, yeah, Madabio want 10 billion. Then the Accountant General then just the right number, send it to the bank governor. Yeah, when I transfer the money, they transfer like that.
Just like that.
It's a collaboration of an elite group right at the top, from the central bank to the Accountant General's department to now they've dismantled the audit service to the office of the president and the Ministry of Finance, the Minister of Finance, the Finance Minister, Financial Secretary, the Accountant General's department, as the letters they were read to you just now, the central bank and the office of the president. They are running the country to the equivalent of the mob, the mafia, gangsters in power. Gangsters in power. And that is how they've been running the country, like a colony of gangsters.
Chernoh, quick thoughts. What do you think about the redenomination, the currency redenomination? What do you think about it? A necessity? What are your thoughts, sir?
I don't see the logic behind it, but it's a process of masking the crisis in the country. You see where you cannot value currency by reducing the size of the paper or reducing the numbers. You can call your currency any kind of thing, but the fact of the matter is, we all know, say, an economy that is not. We cannot have a strong economy without having what we call an independent national economy, where industrialization, production, and export is at the heart of economic operation. But what we have is a subservient economy where people think that when they take loans, they even hide the debt when they collect. And when they take debt from IMF and World Bank, they are not even complying with the conditions. Part of those conditions to make sure that the internal control mechanisms within the system are allowed to exist. Now they don't dismantle. You have no audit service, no auditor general. So how do you expect a situation where you are just borrowing money domestically and externally, and then you're looting this money out of the country? How do you expect your currency to grow?
How do
So
you?
this is deliberate. Then they
Of
extract
course, of
the
course.
auditor
Yes, it's
general.
deliberate. If you do not export, you do not produce, you do not export, how are you going to earn foreign exchange? If you cannot earn foreign exchange, how are you going to ensure that your
To give
currency is
currency, yeah,
we
value.
have we don't need a situation. The IMF is saying we don't face a situation where we don't become almost unworthy of taking debts. Hmm? An omonger economy. How do you expect the currency? You go so now for cut the currency in half. Now you think say that the solution to the crisis? My goodness. So yeah, so this is serious because the president shows no remorse. Right now he's on a vacation. What he don't do? I just read a letter where the Bank of Sierra Leone just transferred to London to the High Commission account nearly £100,000. £100,000, almost nearly $200,000. That is almost 2 billion for make the High Commission no more take care of the arrangement for lodging the president. This not including the president not putting in briefcase so they can go with his wife. And they are going on a vacation.
Goodness me.
And they've been doing this every year, every end of July to August, and they go on this their summer vacation, which they
Yes,
never
then
did
they
in Lamidi
then
Power.
disappear for us. I
They
remember 2 years
disappear for.
ago.
So this, and the bank governor is looking for where the money has gone. He's looking for position people who are holding money in the banks, in their homes, and then say for changing the currency, redenomination. It like you cut the currency into small pieces and then remove all the zeros. It's going to be the same. It's going to be
So
worse.
so Chernoh, I mean, you old, I want to call you old friend, just for put humor inside the conversation. Of course, we did talk about corruption in the institution, state capturing, and we can't talk about all of this without we not mention somebody where you don't, or institution where you don't write lengthily about, which now the anti-corruption, where you say if state institution them they work properly, the regulatory body them they work properly, there was no need for an anti-corruption. But the truth is, an anti-corruption does exist, and it's been a while. Waiting are you view of late, regarding the ACC and the commissioner?
No, we stop forget. The fact of the matter is, if the ACC been serious, they never sack the Auditor General. They left the ACC commissioner. So that are the simple thing. Um, in 2005, by 2004, 2005, we had a very good anti-corruption commissioner, Valentine Collier, at the time. So the ACC go after Okere Adams, Minister of Mines at the time,
Yeah.
supposedly having misappropriated African Development Bank funding that was going to the Marine Ministry for fisheries and development of artisanal fisheries. I don't remember for the full details because I was, I think, editing Concord Times at the time, but I do remember the development. So you have Harry Wheel, you get that. So they had an event at the British Council where the Anti-Corruption Commission was launching the 2005 anti-corruption strategy, and Tijan Kaba was invited as the chair of the occasion for launching the thing. So you have the anti-corruption commission. So you can see obviously that the president was not pleased with the anti-corruption commission. In fact, he made a statement to say the anti-corruption commission has created the impression that he is leading a government of corrupt ministers, and this is causing problems for him to the extent that now, even when he's trying to appoint good Sierra Leoneans to take positions in the government, they are afraid to take position because they don't want to be associated with a government of supposed corrupt people. And he was saying this in the context that the Anti-Corruption Commission may not issue a statement where it says it was investigating 5 ministers in the government for corruption-related offenses, but they did not name them. He said that is unfair. So basically, the president was rebuking the Anti-Corruption Commission and the Anti-Corruption Commissioner right on stage. And few months after that, there was a parliamentary probe against the Anti-Corruption Commissioner on allegations that he don't violate procurement rules and regulation and all of that, or he don't increase in salary. That was SLPP time, 2005. Go up Kando, next thing they sack the Anti-Corruption Commissioner. And then they appointed Joko Smart. So since then, we never had a good and effective anti-corruption commission until the time that they appointed Abdul Tijankur. And you see the drama again. with income electrics drama. So in my own assessment, we have never had the equivalent of good anti-corruption commissioners, independent anti-corruption commissioner outside of these two individuals. Valentine Collier as a first person, and Abdul Tijan Cole, who I not been covering activities, but at the time I was not too engaged in
Journalism.
about. But that brief time, the story is there. So what am I trying to say is the fact that the current anti-corruption commission is known for defending the government. They've only been effective by arresting teachers, over the theft of small exam papers, also harassment of opposition people. That's a known fact.
Low-hanging fruits like
Yeah,
Dr.
and the harassment of opposition, the use of corruption. The anti-corruption commission today is a willing tool in the hands of the regime to heckle and harass and intimidate opposition politicians, which is unfortunate.
While you on that, and because we come to the 3-hour mark program, the program
Yeah.
for make I just throw Dr. Samora Kamara, not particularly him, but because in a player inside this embassy saga, where again you wrote outstandingly about. Where are we currently?
No, the case in Freetown has nothing to do with the corruption story that we published, because we had shown money transferred from Freetown in 2018 and 2019 with the Bureau administration did, nearly $5 million. As we speak, the case in New York, the government transferred the money and did nothing with it. They just stole the money, basically. That's what they did. And now when the issue came up, they decided to to use this is the thing. When you did have power, you control the judiciary, control law enforcement, so you decide who is a criminal and who has committed a crime. And we have to move from a situation where the law becomes the opinion of those in power. Any country that is governed in that fashion, where the judiciary and people in charge of interpreting the law enforcement becomes the wish and the desire of the executive branch of government, that society is headed for a deep decline and crisis. So that's what we have in Sierra Leone, because the chance we build in case a situation where the current government officials in power stole nearly $5 million and decided to arrest somebody else for a theft that they have committed. So that is the most absurd, and the thing the world does not see. And even now, as we talk so, then they try for also transfer more money to New York for saying they hire a new contractor again. But forget about that. We just read to you, Naya, almost nearly $1.5 million between the 15th of June to the 27th of July. When 2 days ago, we Madabio don't take out of the country. And not only that, a few days ago, the Attorney General's office issued a statement saying that they've convicted Kemal Sise on COI allegations involving a company they call Davis and Dan, in which they were purchasing a boat or something like that. But this is the same Davis and Dan that the current Madabio government, including Madabio himself, is using to transfer money to England.
This is beyond
hundreds of dollars, and in the name of hiring planes.
Yeah, this is beyond Orwellian.
But the problem here is that all of these politicians from the parliamentarians, they all know these things. In fact, in the case of the Samura situation, it should not surprise you that the effort for transform the charges and make him the offender of the crime that he is currently charged is an advice that comes from opposition politicians. Yeah.
It won't be impossible knowing what we see now and knowing now. And again, just a quick one again, like I say, Fambule una kabo una do with the host Chernoh on the TNN TV Media Empire. Hopefully we'll get them again on Tuesday or Wednesday. Not be supposed for Holland this long, but there are so many things for discussing. Like we see, would they make these sacrifices because something has to change and things are changing. Let's get it right. We see I think that the Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs, instead don't go quiet, but we know say that they work on the ground, Lahai Lawrence Lima, a kind of TV or radio, They try for provoke social media as if not relevant. The reason why they talk about social media is because social media is relevant and this is the driving force. Don't fool yourself and don't be fooled. Chernoh, the office of the First Lady, where you write extensively about in the past, where you expose and you landed that office day or the occupant of the office a mortal blow. I don't think say they will ever recover from that. But although they get dry eye, so they still they carry on, like you say, even with that, they still they thief more and they find new way for circumvent the rules and the laws just for siphon money off. It's been quiet for a while. What exactly they go on? You're not able for fend the method where they use now, then don't fend different method where you're not able for fend.
Like I say, I just don't say now we have to focus on political corruption. We get for return to the financial issues as we approach the elections. But one thing I want for underline are the fact that we are a team of it's so difficult to brag, but a team of well-disciplined journalists, myself and other colleagues who have not been seen. Yeah. So we have a program, we have a plan we are working with. And that plan is what brought the Sierra Leonean public and the rest of the world to where we are. In terms of before our intervention, the Madabi administration had fooled not just the people of Sierra Leone, but also their international partners that they were committed to the fight against graft and corruption in the saloon. So the international indexes were rating the government at a higher level, like very progressive. That's how Madabio appeared initially. And then we intervened and said the reason why the international organizations had missed the corruption that was going on in the country, now because the organizations, the way for provide the alternative information, way for balance the story, they are all part of the system. These are civil society organizations, the media, and now increasingly as we get to learn, the opposition politicians themselves, some of them. So we intervene and we had to do a surgical operation where you do not only say a government is corrupt, but it's the equivalent of a case where the patient is sick and is denying that he or she is sick, and you force the patient into a theater room and then force a surgery and open the intestines of the patient and show the disease, which is what we did. It's a methodical approach which disables not just the police, but spectators from being able to think otherwise. So this is the only way that we were able to bring the reality of the corruption in Sierra Leone to the attention of the international media, to the attention of international policymakers, and the citizens of Sierra Leone within the country and outside of the country. It's undeniable evidence. So it's not the absence of new evidence. It's a question of what is the most decisive thing to do. Like I said, there is a correlation between financial corruption and political corruption. At the level of ground corruption, these are the two manifestations. There are small kinds of corruption, which include, for example, you give rest. You load rest now, Wataki for Karago, the man the way they did at the truck with the load man and they go and take small iron, they put out some of it, they sift out the rice. So we get to see those kinds of stealing for the most part.
Okay.
But we don't see the grand corruption. So we've been able to show that. Now we don't show in the last 4 years, we don't show how politicians loot the treasury, how they steal money. Now we are trying to show how these politicians steal elections. Okay, how they steal elections, which is what
I get you. Maybe your next appearance we will focus on exactly that.
We got to return to the First Lady. We got to show how much money was used in the wedding, how much money they've taken, perhaps where some of these monies are, the destination of some of these monies as well.
Yeah, we still wait for that, Chernoh. Apart from the First Lady, all the other one, them including the president, and even the money for that New York Chancery. The investment, them inside the investor,
exactly.
Like that.
So I'm hoping that as we enter the elections, the next couple of months will be much more interesting.
Very much interesting. Chernoh, I get 2-3 more things there for let we round up, and one of them, will be on policy. Are you disappointed with this government, because this government seems to be bereft of policy? All with the is not strange per se. Previous governments they do that, but I not believe saying that to this level. I go left this for public adjudication. But then build one pump here and they make much pump and pagantry around building of one pump, the retiring of one road instead of policy. And policy, I think, is the better thing where they define the direction and waiting will be the potential outcome. Are you disappointed with all of this? Like most people I know why they have conversation with them do?
No, the BO government, of course, get an abysmal record in terms of delivery, because this is why you do not need to undermine the constitution. Basically, you don't need for peace on the constitution or turn the constitution into a tissue paper if you actually had performance legitimacy, but they don't have that. So the government came to power with a tiny majority, has not been able to galvanize support, has not been able to unite the country, has no development agenda, nothing concrete to show, and the claim to fight corruption went about harassing people. And now there's this contrasting, the evidence that shows the contrast, the hypocrisy between public rhetoric and what is actually happening. So it's an unpopular government, and the atrocities combined, the polarization and the corruption. So that is make you see all this difficult thing, voter suppression, exclusion of candidates, the injustices and all that here. It would have been impossible for, if the government may really get performance record, development policy at the policy level, at the development level, never get something to point to. But they are going into an election with nothing to show. The president say he don't deliver all of his manifesto. Okay, promises and pledges, and you don't even add more. But here we are going to an election. He's trying to rig the election, so he's trying to steal election. He's afraid of genuine competition. Yeah. He's afraid of genuine competition simply because he has no performance record to show to the people.
I agree.
So if you ask me if I'm disappointed, no, it's not just a disappointment. The BO regime has failed the people of Sierra Leone. It has failed its own supporters. The supporters of the government can no longer defend the excesses of the BO regime. They cannot defend the looting of the government. They are ashamed. Look at the recent by-election that happened, where people are now increasingly voting against. There's increased numbers of votes for the opposition in supposed SLPP strongholds. Why you could try for bring law for prevent people and for register? Because you don't get popular support. Why will you even begin to harass people you think if they compete against you, they're going to defeat you? Why do you want to use the court process to decide would I forbid the candidate for the opposition? Why would you use the court to overthrow the opposition executive? Unprecedented.
Okay.
Because you are unpopular. You're afraid. Forget democratic institutions.
Yeah, because you run on message. You run on
message. He has no message.
That's what it is. If you don't have a message.
How would it matter be able to tell the people of Sierra Leone right now, we will make them really get a second term in a freer context? Tell me about. There's none. I don't see no message.
And then I'm not saying you deal with more serious things then, but definitely I get to ask you this. What do you make of the appointment of Alpha Khan as spokesperson for the Mother BO government or the presidential spokesperson?
I don't really. I leave that to the APC people for deciding.
Oh, absolutely, you're right.
But this is what I want to say.
Yeah.
Alpha Kanu owns multiple businesses. Some of these APC politicians are making more money today than they made under their own government. So it should not come as a surprise. But I will leave the APC to decide for themselves whether Alpha Kanu is still a member of their party or he's not a member
or not. And I go add the APC people they need for go back to Bintumani 3, and probably that go time for inflection and reflection.
Yeah.
That will help them to understand a few things. Chernoh, do you see there seems to be a developing relationship between some journalists, social media pundits or journalists, social scientists, those of us that are in the media, a developing relationship with the people, and I want to believe that as a consequence of the situation back home. So they they look for news that they can hang on to, and they seem for they get positive news from people like you and others. And so therefore there's a burgeoning relationship. If this is true, do you think this relationship will last and it will help shape things to come?
No, I think there is difficulty. So I have developed this uh, thing where I can post all the time that the regime and its allies in political parties, in civil society, in the media are having a hard time for hold on, because we don't, what new technology has provided the citizens of the world is an opportunity to build a global community of consciousness. We are not just in conversation with each other, we are in conversation with the world. So few years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it was impossible to have this kind of conversation. Right now, if you know to these independent citizen journalism platforms that we have, we're not going to get this kind of conversation. No radio station or television that the host we. But we're still getting the message across to Sierra Leoneans. The government, they try to bring all kinds of laws and legislation for police, the circulation of information. But it's happening. It's impossible for dictators to behave um, the way they used to be in the past. So I am not really. I think the what you call the traditional media has a huge challenge to catch up with new media, and this has been made necessary by the advent of new technology. So the promise where the internet don't provide to
Yeah.
citizens of the world is phenomenal. It depends upon us, left to win how we the user. But so far, you see, we issued out a call to the people of Sierra Leone through what you call these informal media networks.
Yeah.
And everybody, both within the country, outside of the country, and friends of Sierra Leone, rose up to direct action. And in the whole process, the traditional media, we are spectators. And we get how many papers, more than 50 papers coming out in Sierra Leone. But the struggle against parliament, taken up by the citizens of Sierra Leone, led by and supported by independent media channels. I mean, what you can call social media, new media channels, made the so-called traditional media or allies of the regime in the private press, spectators. They became spectators of the ongoing struggle. I don't even, somebody forward to me message all in some of the WhatsApp groups where journalists in Sierra Leone are part of, send me, where they were insulting me. Some of them talk say, "Oh, he's too desperate. Why make he share the number of the Speaker of Parliament? He went too far." These are journalists talking about it because when I'm amused because they do not
No
understand
understanding in your duty.
they don't understand the role of the press. They don't understand that, so but now some of them get to learn. But this is a difficult situation. I've been insulted by both friends and other people who are not even mentor in the media and as alone that used to see me as their own mentor. But I tell you, deep down, they really admire how we've been able to hold the government to task. They admire that deep within, secretly, they confess unto themselves. But openly, they cannot because they have the owe allegiance, certain allegiance, they have to pretend. Some of them, they do that. So knowing the dynamics of the situation, I am not really too disturbed by their willing silence and their collaboration with the regime. Some of it has to do with politics, economics, and also other kinds of allegiance.
Security.
So their security.
Yeah.
But deep within, so I tell some of my colleagues who they work with, we say, in a situation like this, your role has been reduced to the equivalent of DJs in a nightclub, where your job is to make sure there's music on the dance hall. Sometimes you play kind of music, everybody comes to the stage and dance. And you change that music, you play another music, a set of people will sit down, other ones dance. Sometimes you play music, nobody will dance. But the job of the DJ is to make sure there is always music on the dance floor, whether somebody's dancing or not. So that's the role of the journalist, is to provide the information. If a particular political group celebrate the information, it's a matter of coincidence. If everybody is happy, it's a matter of coincidence. But your job is to provide that information. You're responsible to make sure that the information is correct. You can defend it, you can substantiate it, the evidence is accurate. That is my thing. So it deals with another question: the difference between love and respect in their relationship. So I tell people, when it comes to family, if
Yeah.
you are a husband or a wife or a father or a mother or a child, your relationship with your close ones, in that case, you have to make sure your family love you. Okay, your loved ones, they have to love. That's why they call loved ones. So basically, as a parent, you go home, you bring gifts for your spouse, you bring gifts for your kids, or your kids bring gifts to you as a parent. So you're happy. You create happiness because your family has to be happy for you. They have to love you. Okay. But when it comes to professional engagement, you do not have to look for love. You have to look for respect because people might not love you, but they have to respect you for the principles you stand for. And once at the professional level they begin to respect your work, even if they disagree with it, they will learn how to love you in the end. So the
All right,
two,
Chernoh.
one is objective, one is subjective. So we have to distinguish between the two. So
I think
when people disagree with me work at the professional level, and it's not like they hate me, but because sometimes my work offends
if offense, of course,
their
that is
thinking.
clearly understood. You're
Yeah, I
absolutely right,
understand that. So,
and I agree with you. Not
and I'm
that
not
they hate
disturbed by
you,
that.
yeah, not that they hate you, but you work just kind of offend them, and when you
Yeah,
offend person, they not like that.
yeah, they're not like
But
that.
the idea that's the individual, we they deal with them, the
Yeah,
population.
yeah, the
In other
population.
words, the silent majority.
Yeah.
That's what we are speaking in their behalf. Cheno, I want to ask you one final. I agree with all what you say. And people that want for Yeri policy, not to story they want Yeri. Before we wrap up this good conversation, yeah, make I just acknowledge we people the way they watch. We get about 80 of them on YouTube where they watch. So Abu Conte, hello to you too. Tondo Sise, I am watching from Sweden. Thank you, Mr. Prince, bringing important people in your platform, educating the Sierra Leonean people. Mr. Ba is a hero. God bless him. Robert Kago, thanks, Chernoh. Continue the good work. Robert Kago again, Chernoh, the approval of judges is not done by parliament. Robert Cargo Chernobyl. What happened is the auditor with the auditor general and his department. I'm a bit confused there. Fatmata Bangura. Wow, this is very good. Thank you, Mr. Chernobyl. You made us proud. Awake, bravo. Fatmata Bangura, Mr. Chernobyl is God sent from Salone. Yomi Bathes Wilson. Thank you so much for this program. You two are such great patriots that we do appreciate. Marie Baseka, thank you, my brother. You are doing a great job for our land. This message is held for review. I don't know why. Imran TV, there are many others, yeah, all love, 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 love. We love you all too. Thank you very much. Can't read all. The final one, Arun Kamara. Please, we're expecting to hearing from you any week because after your last platform, when you mentioned about the hearing of the Chantry building, which was supposed to have taken place on the 15th, I think that was for you, Chair. Then why I hear from you regarding the Chantry building? Yeah, when I hear from Chair, when I continue for look. Africanist Press they publish, so don't be lazy. Go to your website, look for Africanist Press, and then read their publications. Try for get in touch with Chernobyl and be is all over social media. So for let you get in touch with them, it's very, very easy. If you need in contact and you don't get them, get in touch with me. Cherno, can I just wrap up this all important interview by a very small noise by condensing, if not all of the things the way you say, but at least some of them, which is largely get for do with the public election bill, the conduct of parliamentarian, them, the 21-man APC committee, the loggerheads, the collusion where they go on between, parliamentarians, opposition parliamentarians, and the ruling party, astounding. We touch on Lara Pierce Taylor, he is suspended Auditor General, and almost on every department, the office of the First Lady, the presidency, in travel, one kind of London, over 100,000 wired to the UK High Commission of the Sierra Leone Embassy, for the president in well-being one way they do every year around July. And before that, 15 billion had been withdrawn during the travel to Switzerland and the African Union Summit. Chernoh, I just want to give you the opportunity for wrap up this brief, good conversation where we don't get. I call it a conversation because we agree on almost, if not everything. I do agree, with the thing that we don't see. And Famul, and the next step with a focus, because that's the focus of the Africanist press now, on the stealing, the thieving of election way they in the making. It's been in the making for a while. And as the Africanist press they expose, we self they expose. So we all go there on board together so we go understand. And even for me, self today, there are a few things who I learn when I learn in curve for me. But I go wrap up the show after Mr. Chernoh, but I don't give final summation. Over to you, boss.
No, I just get for thank you for the opportunity for this conversation. It has been very wonderful, and you are very good, as always, a very good interlocutor, basically.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I just want to remind people, especially those who care about, those who are members and supporters of the APC, understand that it's your responsibility to make sure your party works right, that the effort of parliamentarians who pretend say they are the most genuine faction in the APC of the 21-man committee, they have to be held to account. They have a responsibility of democratizing the party. And as we say, the 21-man committee is a result of a court process, the same process we create parliamentary majority for the SLPP and I don't create the caretaker executive. And 12 of those represent and are the result of a parliamentary decision, they are beneficiaries from parliament. And the parliamentary leader was given the opportunity or the right and responsibility for choose them. So that said, it is time that you, the supporters and members, step back and look at your party, look at how much it has been captured by the SLPP, because it's very important for no safe, when I want to get free and fair election, you have to start by holding those leaders accountable, making them answer to questions. Why did they think it's legal and justifiable for them for be appointees of the state in their own political parties? Than a one. Secondly, for those where they look forward to more bank accounts and bank statements and regarding the looting of the treasury, we are keeping track of that. We have the information. You know, the rotten. We go produce them anytime and every day, as and when the time is necessary. We thank our supporters and our faithful followers and those who have watched this show and the readers of the Africanist Press and those who have stood by us and continue to stand by us and continue to share the information. Do not get tired. The process of liberating a country starts with people being conscious, and information is a vehicle for generate the kind of consciousness that we need as a nation to move forward collectively in pursuing those things that will serve the interest of our people now and in the future. So thank you very much. I want to stop now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Barr. Thank you so much, Mr. Barr, and I'm really appreciate. Like I say, it's like say the over 1 year way you know come, we've made up for that, and I want to say thank you so much again. I mean, there are many other things that we're supposed to touch on, but we touch on the main things. Then, like I say again, hopefully, Fambulem, with a hope for host Mr. Barr at some point mid next week, either on a Tuesday or on a Wednesday, we go work that out, and we will come back to Una, where we go focus heavily on the potential of stealing the 2023 elections. Because, like when I hear Mr. Barr say again, one of the most important things we need to understand as a people, and for keep our eyes and ears open, be informed, read, go to your constitution, look at your constitution, not left your constitution out of all of this. It's important that you be informed. An informed mind is a mind where able to make a relevant decision where potentially will help you not only for the now, but for the future. So those that participated in today's program, I can see between the two platforms, them we get 206 people still they watch. I want for Leona begin for wind down because effectively the program don't come to an end, and I not just want for shut down where 200 people still they watch. So this is not the TNN program. Una not forget tomorrow we there on again at I believe 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Una check the flyer and I go put them out again either this net or first thing tomorrow, where we host Mr. Jamboya Jallo, a man so vast in knowledge of the country who's how we come out that most things where they talk about, even with me age, I don't know. I don't know about them. So every day I learn from him, and I host them tomorrow along with an other man with vast with the history of Salone, where they also call Imran Toure. Both of them guys there go then at the platform tomorrow, and I'll be hosting them Once again, my people, I want to say thank you to una all very, very much. Today is Saturday, and this program effectively don't come to an end. So I want to say goodbye to una. Still, the number they count on is just 190. Still the watch. Goodbye, everyone. This has been the TNN TV Media Empire. Una waiting at the YouTube page, or una we not did it now. Una go to the YouTube page and subscribe. We get over 400, 450 videos, or approaching 500. So una go there, una subscribe. Everything una want nobody platform of videos they will not put out, they are there. Those of you that are watching on Facebook or will watch later, una not forget for follow. You either like the page or follow the page, and this we are kindly requesting that you do so. In behalf of the Then and Now Media Empire, I'm Prince Emil Komadi saying goodbye and have a lovely weekend.